Good evening, friends. Now we are playing ICAI motto song. I request all participants to put their right hand on their heart. Good evening, friends. As you all are aware and excited to learn more on Ind AS, and we are having today none other than our friend, philosopher and guide, CA Chintan Patel, chairman of this committee. He is also a regional council member and our mentor for accounting standard are concerned. Chairman of the branch in his absentia, CA Fenil Shah, learned mentor Chintan Bhai, all participants. It's really a great moment and for Ahmedabad branch that we are coming under the leadership of Chintan Bhai with the webinars on accounting standard, IFRS, and all those issues, because we are known and expert of the accounting domain itself. So if I am going to GST department, they acknowledge me for my domain expertise in accounting and not for the GST, because there are advocates, there are tax experts, and if we are having this expertise and knowledge, then definitely people do respect us. And that's why I am also excited to learn more from Chintan Bhai, and Chintan Bhai is going to make us learn today how to go to read these accounting standards, because if I share with you my experience, I am totally blank so far as the accounting standard is concerned. So Chintan Bhai, thank you very much, sir, for mentoring all of us from the front. And now the floor is yours, sir. So please guide us. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Vishen Bhai, for your starting the session. And I understand that Fenil Bhai, the chairman of the branch, is not there today. So your role has been double today. And you rightly set the tone with very, very important understanding that the accounting is something which is very critical. Even if we are in GST, taxation, or other division, however, something which we cannot ignore is accounting and auditing. So our core area of expertise, whenever it's called as a CA, is a chartered accountant. So when chartered accountant means we have to be expertise in our core area of accounting standards. As we all are aware that Indian accounting standard Ind AS has been there since so many years. And basically what we are trying to do here is that we have set up a first time Ind AS refresher course at Ahmedabad branch. Due to this lockdown, we are also able to use technology, and the technology has really made it possible that we are able to have the best of faculties across India, irrespective of the location. And this Ind AS refresher course, when we are starting here, we have the faculties which are there as a speaker across all national seminars. They will be speakers in India certification course, IFRS certification course at various levels, and they have given sessions on Ind AS, at least 100 to 500 sessions. Every faculty is given on this particular topic. So we are sure that with this technology and with the use of this particular refresher course from the branch, We want to give the best and best of Ind AS as possible. And now when we talk about the starting of this particular refresher course, the objective of first 1 hour for me myself is to really focus on what we intend to achieve. Aditya, we are trying to achieve at the end of the refresher course what we intend to achieve. That is our primary objective. So I'm going to focus more on what is the opportunities for everyone, whether you are CA in industry, CA in practice, and also how to learn, how to understand which are the basic core concepts of Ind AS and IFRS. And I also share about my practical experience of working in various corporates on Ind AS. So that is the my main objective of to start with. And then we have today's another faculty, CA Yagnesh Desai. He'll join maybe after 45 minutes. He will join, and then we'll start with the technical sessions. But before technical sessions, the objective here is to just lay down the foundation, discuss on the framework, discuss on the most important practical aspects, and how you can really apply in your practice or industry. That is what we are looking for right now. So before we start, I think let me understand about the participants. What is the overall experience of participants in these 145 plus 145 participants are registered for in this refresher course? That is again, Mission B, one of the very important thing that when we launch for auditing standards, the amount of amount of experience or the amount of interest which is being brought by the members of that branch was amazing. Same way for Ind AS refresher course, there are more than 145 participants have registered. That shows the dedication, that shows the sincerity of them to learn about Ind AS. So that gives more emphasis, more basically responsibility on our shoulder to ensure that they get for what they registered. Right. So Bishop, just one thing before I understand you have to for this is a completely different topic, and for that we can have a poll right now to begin with, just to understand that where our participants are lying. So I'm going to share the poll result with all of you and also with all faculties. So the faculties will come here, they will understand the background of the participants. So the poll here is basically, just a minute, I'm launching a poll right now. What is your existing Ind AS experience? So focus here is to basically understand where you stand. Do you have the basic level of understanding with no experience of Ind AS, or do you have average experience with implementation of small size listed company, not a very high practical issues, or you already dealt with a large high level of Ind AS implementations? So this will really help me to understand the tone of the whole sessions. Also, I will share this result with all the faculties, so they are going to change their presentation to tune with these requirements. So please give your response as early as possible. More 30 seconds to go. Right. So I think with this we can close the poll, and let us share this result to understand that how we see 46% are basically 46% are having a basic level of experience. 10% is having average level experience, and 5% is having a very high level of experience deal with the high level of these implementations. So I think 46% are basic and 49% are in average. So primarily, when you look at the focus of these is basically people wanted to understand more on detail about conceptual clarity, practical issues, and how can they implement on these aspects. So, Bishan bhai. Okay, let me share my screen so that we can begin with. Uh, Bishan bhai, I think Bishan bhai. Shadab, can you see my screen? Is my screen
Yes, sir.
visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Fine. So with this, let us understand and let's begin with the requirements. So when we talk about India's refresher course, these particular thing come into my mind when we are discussing about the auditing standard series. Last month, we have done a lot of debate and discussions on the auditing standard series. And now here we are focusing on Ind AS. So the agenda of the my session, first 45 minutes, I would like to speak more on first, what is the opportunity as a CA, present opportunities and the futures. What do you like to do in the Ind AS? What is possible for you to in the Ind AS? That is first point. Second, we are focusing on how to learn. If you want to learn, because 49% are in the bracket where they are having basic level understanding, 48% has an average level understanding. So how can you learn? How can you master the art of learning Ind AS and applying that? That we are going to focus. Third, we'll focus on Ind AS framework. The framework is one of the most important piece of documents and where which provides the information about the every standards. So before we go through the various standards which are there in the schedule, I think first very important thing is to look at the tone. It provides a tone and the principle for formulation of the standards. So that we'll discuss on that. Next part, as time provides, we'll also focus on the major issues which are there for Ind AS conversion, which are based on the application and implementation of Ind AS. What are the major issues which are faced by them, impact areas, and then we'll discuss about this refresher course, this Ind AS course, how we have dealt with, what is the objective of refresher course, and how each faculty is going to talk about this course. So this is the primary agenda. So before you go through the detailed standard-wise technical stuff, the focus is to really look at the main base, most important thing, that what is opportunity for you, how can you learn it, which are the framework for that, major impact issues, and how to set tone for refresher course. Now let us look at first the opportunities. See, whenever we do something, that we always have some in mind that how it is going to get me what back. So mind well, if you really want to get a premium earning, premium fees, the most important thing is that you should be the first to implement. If we start something later on, we can definitely provide the services. However, it may not have a premium fees. It may have other compliance things. So this is applicable to all, whether it's AS, Ind AS, GST, Companies Act, forensic accounting, insolvency resolution plan, valuations. So there are a lot of new areas that come into pictures. However, if you really want to grab the opportunity, the most important thing is you should be ready for the opportunity. If you feel that basically I can I will learn once opportunity comes, I think that is not the right objective. So when I look at the 48% have a basic understanding level, 49% level, that gives a lot of confidence that you all are interested to get the learning first, and then you may look for the opportunity. And believe me, if we are ready for the Ind AS, the opportunity will definitely come to us. So as far as Ind AS implementation is concerned, from 1st April 2016, 16-17 was the first year of Ind AS implementation. Today, when we talk about, it is already applied to all listed companies and unlisted company with 250 crore and more net worth. So application of this Ind AS is already there for all listed companies and all companies having a net worth of 250 crore or more. So these companies are already covered under Ind AS. And when we talk about the banking and insurance company, for banking and insurance company, there are a lot of issues that come into pictures. For banking company, the most important was financial instruments, because the financial instruments may have the huge impact on the banking industries. So they are trying to defer it. The implementation has to defer. Insurance company, there's a new standard, Ind AS 116 117 is going to come there, which is going to focus on insurance. So that's why the insurance sector has also deferred implementation. So what is happening right now? Many standards under Ind AS are changing, and why it is changing? That these standards are nothing but in accordance with the IFRS. So first foremost, we'll also focus on the Ind AS, how Ind AS is formed, what is the process of IFRS, what is Ind AS, and then we will focus on the basic things required. As far as the opportunity is concerned, all these companies are already under Ind AS, which is all listed company. If it is unlisted company, 250 crore or more net worth, they are already under Ind AS. And banking insurance is what phase is going to come. NBFC has already implemented from March 18, from 1st April 2018. So NBFC are already there, but same like unlisted company, 250 crore or more, listed company, all are covered. So NBFC are also already covered under Ind AS. So here in this phase, banking insurance is going to be the next covered. So opportunity when you talk about the opportunity, first let us look at if you are a CA in industry. If you are a CA in industry, in that case, basically, first thing that Ind AS has given you a recognition as a CA. If you look at the role of CA over the period has become a much more dull role, where CA has become like accountant, without much information, without much classification, without much requirement. So but this has become more of like a dull topic, because it was assumed that accounting standards is same there for so many years. Now what happens, as Ind AS come to picture, Ind AS requires the real knowledge of the CA. Any non-CA who has been working for so many years, and now a CA who is a younger, that younger CA will have, we can add more value because he has experience, he has knowledge of Ind AS. So the all listed companies, all large size company, they now 100% compulsory required a CA, and they will have definitely a value for CA who has knowledge of Ind AS. Without Ind AS, they will have a reduced value for CA. So I think the recognition of as Ind AS has come to picture because of Ind AS, because of the Ind AS. So when Ind AS has come to picture, the demand for CA was increased, and today also the very technical issues are there. In that case, they will definitely look at the CA who may be working in industry. Second thing is that the Ind AS experience and knowledgeable persons are required. I talk with many companies, and they require the CA who have knowledge and experience, because in couple of years were there where the CA has been qualified, but they don't have the experience of Ind AS. And if you talk about all the CAs who have qualified 3 years back, they have not learned about Ind AS in the curriculum. So the CAs which are already working in that particular company, they need to abreast with the requirement of Ind AS. Hence, was a lot of information, there's a lot of requirement for the CA who are knowledgeable, who have experience of Ind AS. And third very important thing when I talk about the CA for job is opportunity to work abroad. Ind AS has made the accounting global. So today what you're learning, you're not learning only the Indian accounting standard as Ind AS. It is the global standards converged as per Indian requirement is Ind AS. So when you when you learn this Ind AS, so the knowledge and experience of today's refresher course is equivalent to the international level learning. So if you have experience of Ind AS, you can get a job across the globe, whether it's European countries, or whether it's Dubai, Muscat, or whether it is South Africa, or USA also, because USA still is under US GAAP, but they have been contemplating to move towards IFRS. There is a project going between ISB and FSB where they would like to merge and they would like to look at the IFRS over the period. Or US GAAP is going to change over the period of IFRS, and IFRS is going to change as per US GAAP. So, however, if you learn Ind AS, it is not Ind AS. It is, I would say, it's an Indianized version of IFRS. Ind AS will generally give a impression that it is a accounting standard, but in my view, we should focus and we should talk more on as an Indianized version of IFRS. So when you are learning, when you have experience on Indianized version of IFRS, the whole world is open for you, and the job you can get across the whole continent. If I talk about my firm, I have one CA employee who is doing job and who is reporting to me on Ind AS implementation job. He has shifted to and migrated to Australia. In Australia, he has been given a very good task only because of experience of working on Ind AS implementation. Because in Australia also there's IFRS was there. So the experience of working on Ind AS was counted when he does the job in Australia. And same way it happens across the globe. So today what we are learning is not about Indian standard, it is about the Indianized version of IFRS. It will definitely open up a lot of opportunities as far as the world is concerned. Now let us look at from practice point of view. Practice point of view, that the first for most opportunity was on first time implementation of Ind AS. When any company would like to move from the local AS to Ind AS, that is the first challenging step for any company. For that challenging step, they want somebody who can provide them comfort, who have experience about working on Ind AS, and if they give to them, they are sure about the results, because they want to shift from AS to Ind AS smoothly, because in majority of the cases they are a listed company, or they are having the borrowings from the banks and other institutions. So in that case, the result is very critical. The reporting part is very important. Disclosure is very critical. So the movement implementations from AS to Ind AS is always one of the most important thing. As I talk about that, for listed companies and 250 crore net worth companies, they are already moved to Ind AS. However, wherever the new companies are listed, there is a need to have Ind AS implementation. Wherever the company reaches the 250 crore net worth, they need to be covered under Ind AS. So Ind AS will definitely have a huge opportunity as the first time implementation is concerned. Conversions smooth if required. They need a professionals, experts like us who can help them to move from the AS to Ind AS. Second very important part is the training. As I discussed during my CA industry part, that the corporates want CA who has experience, who has knowledge of Ind AS, and that was a dearth of the professionals, dearth of the CA who have experience of Ind AS. So if we can provide this training to the corporates, that is again one of the very important area where one can look after. Third point is advisory on various issues. See, in 2016 was a year when there was a huge requirement of Ind AS. A lot of companies want to really implement Ind AS for the first time. But what about thereafter? I was always cautious that yes, I have spent many hours, because I started my journey as international GAAP around 12 years back. As I have done CPA from USA, I work in Deloitte Mumbai, and as a CPA for USA, I have handled the work of US GAAP conversion. So in 2014 to 2017, in that particular, sorry, in 2004 to 2008, in 2004 to 2008, that was a time where the US GAAP was dominated. A lot of companies in India, they wanted to converge from the Indian GAAP to US GAAP, and they have been listed on Nasdaq, or they have been listed on London Stock Exchange or Singapore Stock Exchange. So they wanted to have their financial statement under the US GAAP requirement. As I qualified as a CPA USA in 2004, and I joined Deloitte Mumbai, at that time my core experience was on handling the US GAAP conversion. So that US GAAP conversion helped me to really build up on Ind AS experience of converging from AS to US GAAP or AS to International Financial Reporting Standards or AS to Ind AS. So what is needed here is that this has been started. My journey was started in 2004, 2005, and then it continues for so many years. So for me, it was a question that once in 2016, 17, all the companies are majority covered under Ind AS, then what will happen now? What about today? So today, believe me, friends, there's a need to have the advisory on various Ind AS issues. And as Ind AS are based on IFRS, as IFRS is continuously changing, continuously updating the IFRS, same way Ind AS is also continuously updating. So as Ind AS is continuously updating, there's a need to have expert, there's need to have someone who can support the company with respect to any operation which happens under Ind AS. So advisory on various issues is going to be there. Plus financial instruments is one of the most complex area where there are a lot of issues are there, and where the company encounter these issues, they need somebody who can give them guidance. So advisory on various issues is going to be there. Guidance in case of constant change, as I already told about that Ind AS is continuous changing, as IFRS is continuous changing. So somewhere there's a need to have somebody who can provide guidance and compliance surety. And so Ind AS compliance is required for listed company every quarterly required. Annually, there's need to have a reporting requirement of disclosure detail. So in my view, the scope as a CA is manifold. And one very important thing is that now as a CA, we cannot be ignorant of the global accounting change. Ind AS is a global accounting standards, and as a CA professionals, when we talk about any companies, we cannot be ignorant of these very important change on accounting standards. So Ind AS knowledge and learning is definitely must for all CA, and the course aims here to provide you a refresh about all Ind AS most important concepts and principles. Let us look at now the one very important question which I have been receiving for so many times is how to learn Ind AS. If I want to really get experience on Ind AS, if I want to really start learning on Ind AS, what should be my starting point for Ind AS? So for that, what I have done, I have listed down the resources of ICAI that are available for all of us free of cost, which can be referred if you want to learn Ind AS. Now, if you talk about these things here, one is a compendium of Indian accounting standards. So this compendium is basically provides you all Ind AS in one go. So many resources, many publications, many guidances are available on Ind AS, which is done by ICAI. So even if you go through only ICAI resources, it is more than enough to start with. Everything available. You just talk about their requirement. ICAI has done a wonderful task to ensure that all the members of the CA professions are abreast with the requirement. So compendium of Ind AS is available with all standards. One of the most important thing for learning, I believe that if you want to learn the laws and act, start with the BAR Act, Income Tax Act, Companies Act. Same way, if you want to learn Ind AS, start with the BAR standards. Standards are one of the most important useful resource to start. So in my view, instead of going through the other authors compilation, starting should be done by going through and reading the standards. The BAR standards is the most important thing which will give you more knowledge and confidence also about understanding the overall perspective of the particular standard. Then there are Ind AS guidance material. See, very important thing is that as Ind AS are based on IFRS. Now, under IFRS, there are three parts. Part A is basically BAR standards. Part B is accompanying guidance. So it is called implementation guidance. So wherever the standard is issued, The part B of IFRS provides the implementation guidance of that standard. That is always available along with the particular standard. And part C is a basis for conclusion. Now, if you really want to understand how this standard is formed, so one of the most important literature is the part C, basis for conclusion. What happens that all the team members of ISB, they discuss in detail about the standards. They may have the positive or negative issues of standards and why they have concluded ABC point or paragraph in the standards. The reasoning of the conclusion in the standard are provided under part C, basis for conclusion. So if you really want to understand that why this, why not this, what is the logic behind forming this particular paragraph or standard, you can refer to part C. As far as IFRS is concerned, IFRS is a copyrighted material. So part A, which is the bare standard, is available free of cost to all. Part B and part C, these are not free of cost available. So ICAI has entered into agreement with IASB to share part B and part C of IFRS for India's India-based requirements, and for that ICAI has to pay royalty on that. And with the help and support of ICAI, it is not possible that the part B and part C, which is only available after subscription, now it is available to all of us in India free of cost to understand this part B and part C. So this part B, part C will provide you information about the application guidance, implementation guidance, and the conclusion, basis for conclusion. Framework for Ind AS. See, if you look at the structure of this Ind AS refresher course, we have the Ind AS standards covered in every sessions. Now, the most important thing is that before everyone takes care of the standards, we need to look at the base framework. That's a framework which provides the principles for formulation of Ind AS. And the principles for formulation of Ind AS, what is asset, what is liability, what is income, what is expenditure, that basic principles are provided under framework for Ind AS. So before we start on jumping to the standards, I think first foremost important is to look at the framework. Then comes the impact study and research papers. ICAI has published IFRS 9 financial instrument, a study transition impact. Then there is impact analysis, industry experience. Then Ind AS disclosure checklist. What to be disclosed? The checklist of Ind AS has been provided by ICAI. There is guidance on oil and gas producing activities, education materials. On various Ind AS, the education material which provides detailed explanations with questions and answers are provided by ICAI. ITFG, Ind AS Technical Facilitation Group. ITFG, if anybody has issues, if you're facing any issues, please send email and the ITFG group will consider the issues and then they will give response to the issues. So response to the issues, the compendium of all responses and all issues are provided as ITFG compendium bulletins. That quick reference on Ind AS, all Ind AS in summary format. If you don't have time, first start with the quick referencer. That particular booklet is a small booklet, and that small booklet have a quick overall glance of all standards. So start with that particular referencer and Ind AS overview. So this is what the resources available. Now, if you look at how to learn, in my view, there is no need to look at the various publications available outside. You can definitely purchase if you want it. However, ICAI has the latest resources available. You can refer to that. You can start with the Ind AS overview, difference between AS and Ind AS. So you can move from AS to Ind AS. So refer to ICAI resources which provides you difference between AS and Ind AS carve out. Then reading published Ind AS financial statements. So right now, take up any listed companies. All Ind AS financial statements are available on google.com. Just punch in, take up any listed companies, go through the financial statements, Read once, twice, thrice, fourth. After reading for 4 times, you will understand and you will have a clarity about how they has been captured in particular standards. Then there is you can also look at, once you have learning, once you understand about these things, you can also start writing a blog, writing articles. You can also look at writing a book on Ind AS. That will also help you to capitalize and specialize on particular topic. You can respond to exposure draft. Once you have experience of specializing on Ind AS, there are exposure drafts are coming. Even ISB, IFRS exposure draft. You can give comment to ISB, comment to ICAI for exposure draft on Ind AS, exposure draft on IFRS. So that can be done. And you can also provide presentations. You can share your knowledge. You can share your experience to others, so others can also come up. That is providing speeches to various study sectors and branches. That is what is basically starting more with learning and then moving toward the specializations. That is what I think should be the approach for anything, whether it's Ind AS or any topic, that should be done. Now let us look at first now is on framework. Because as I talk about that Ind AS framework provides the base of all the standards. Now let us there is a lot of basically discussions on principle versus rule. And it's always said that IFRS is a principle-based standard and US GAAP is a rule-based standard. So there's no mention about the principles. However, what happens that when you provide a principle, in that case, there is a need to provide the rule or answer to every query very less. For example, if I have in IT industry, then how to do revenue for my IT industry. If I have real estate industry, then how to do for real estate industries. If I have other industry, then how to do revenue for that industry. So if you provide rule means what? That if XYZ is a case, Y is answer. If ABC is case, then C is answer. That is called rule. But however, if the principle is given, let's take one very simple example to understand principle versus rule. Consolidation, who is subsidiary? I think if you look at under AS 21, it says that if you are having more than 50% voting power, voting rights, then you control. Or it says that your major composition board of directors. So under AS 21, it says that 50% of voting rights or major composition board of directors. Now, if a companies have 50.1% or 50.49% as a stake, under AS it is a subsidiary company, it is controlled. Under Ind AS, it does not provide you 50% as a threshold. So that threshold is called rule. It says that if you are under positions, if you are capable to look at and control the like basically there is a definition of controls provided, and if you have to look at that definition control, if you satisfy the conditions of control definition, then it is a subsidiary company. So even if you are having a 45% stake, still it can be a subsidiary company under Ind AS. Even if you are having 55% stake, still it can be your associate under Ind AS, because Ind AS doesn't talk about the rules. Ind AS says that it provides you principles and guidance. So when the standards are principle-based standards, it is a very thin in volume, because it just provides you principle and you have to apply the principle for every transactions. Under US GAAP, they have been more rule-based, so it is a voluminous literatures. However, now the situation is such that IASB, which is a board which issues IFRS, and FASB board which issues US GAAP. So FASB and IASB, they are sitting together, and there's a convergence plan which is going on FASB and US GAAP, wherein they both are changing to align with the requirement. So there are some situations where the rules has come into pictures. However, primary IFRS or Ind AS are called principle-based standard, where they want to provide you principle, and wherever the principle is provided, in that case, it is on the management and the auditor, because the role of auditor is very critical. Management may have applied a principle, but how the principle is applied, is it applied correctly or not? So that is the role of auditor, to verify and cross verify and confirm that. So the role of management and auditors is very critical when the standards are principle based standards. So Ind AS or IFRS are primarily principle based. However, in certain cases, the rules are already inserted in certain standards, in new standards per se, but still it is primarily principle based standard. They will just want to provide a basic concept to principle, and that principle one need to apply for each transaction. Let us look at the purpose of Ind AS framework. So the Ind AS framework sets out the concept that underlines the preparation and presentation of financial statements in accordance with Indian accounting standards for external users. I think before we look at this framework, let us first understand that one thing, that IFRS, the word IFRS is not used by India because India has taken the plan of convergence. We have not adopted IFRS per se. So we are based on IFRS. However, the word IFRS cannot be used because we have not adopted completely. As there are carve out, there's a difference between IFRS and Ind AS. As there is a difference between IFRS and Ind AS, it is called Ind AS carve out. As there are carve out, as there are difference between IFRS and Ind AS, we cannot use the word IFRS. So Ind AS is nothing but the IFRS less some differences. So right now we are learning IFRS because Ind AS in my view is 98% of IFRS. 98%. So we are learning primary completely IFRS, and the 2% is carve out, which is required because which we feel that these are not in accordance with the economic characteristics of India, and they are not correctly provided. So that is the reason there is a carve out on that, and maybe over the period will merge these particular carve out. In that case, we can have the IFRS word. But till that time we don't adopt IFRS completely, we have the Ind AS, which is in my view 98% of IFRS. So today when you talk about Ind AS course, we are focusing on IFRS only. So this framework, the framework is the primary document. It provides the principle for development of Ind AS. Other standard we develop karna hai. So how can I develop the Ind AS standards? That particular conceptuality, values, principles are provided this. It also helps in harmonization of regulations, accounting standards, and procedures. It helps in preparation of financial statements. It also helps auditors in reviewing, also helps users in understanding, and it also provides the basic framework of formulations of standards. If some response, some standard is, if there is no Ind AS standard which provides solution to your query, the only thing which is applicable to you is the Ind AS framework. So if there is no standard which is specific to your requirement, then you need to comply and apply the principles which are laid down under Ind AS framework. Now this Ind AS framework has content. First, it says underlying assumptions. Going concern, accrual accounting, these two are the main assumptions underlying the framework, underlying the standards. So when the financial statement are prepared, it is always prepared on accrual basis, no cash flows of accounting. And going concern assumptions. In this one also talks about the going concern, where Yagnesh will talk about that. But yes, these are the two underlying assumptions on which the framework talks about that. Elements of financial statements: assets, liability, equity, income, expenditure, which is defined under Ind AS framework. Recognition criteria: probability of future economic benefits, measurement reliability, measurement, historical cost, current cost, realizable value, present value, fair value. See here, one very important thing is that is always perceived, sometimes perceived that Ind AS is nothing but fair value. My dear friends, that is not the correct word. Ind AS has fair value, but Ind AS says that historical cost is the primary, and in certain cases, fair value is required to be followed. So even under disclosure, notes on accounts, we need to write down that the accounts are prepared based on historical cost concept, except in these cases, fair value is being applied with. So that disclosure required because certain standards are such that the fair value provides the right basis to users. Hence, fair value has been taken into consideration. So these are the way the content of all content of Ind AS framework. Now I am looking into these particular definitions. See, framework defines what is asset, what is liability. Now, when you look at the framework, it primarily means that the whole approach of the Ind AS is on the balance sheet, because profit and loss account statement, income statement is nothing but the movement of asset and liability. So how it is there? Because that's why the standard of deferred tax, when you refer to Ind AS 12, under Ind AS 12, the concept is changed from the timing difference to temporal difference, which is balance sheet approach. Because the Ind AS per se primarily is on the balance sheet approach. So asset is what is a probable that the future economic benefit will flow to the company, and asset has a cost or value that can be measured reliably. So future economic benefit, FEB, is expected to flow to entity and the cost is measurable. These two are the conditions, recognition condition of assets. For liabilities, FEB is probable, outflow of FEB is probable, and the amount of settlement can be measured reliably. So these two are the conditions of recognitions of basically assets and liability. Now these recognition conditions which are talking about right now, you will see that these conditions are being repeated in each standards of assets and liabilities. When you refer to the property plant equipment, when you refer to intangible assets, that is the first recognition of property plant equipment. Here also you will find the same conditions, that future economic benefit is probable, and second thing is that it is cost is measurable reliably. So these conditions, recognition conditions of asset liability, which are being detailed under framework, the same are being repeated in all standards. Why? Because the standards are prepared based on framework. Now let us look at income. Under income, it says that more of the recognition of increase in asset or decrease in liability, and expenditure, increase in liability, decrease in assets. So income expenditure is being defined based on movement of asset and liability. So primarily, if you look at, the focus is on recognition of asset, recognition of liability, and the change of asset liability will give a rise to income or expenditures. That is what the primary indication of this framework. I'll just focus on basically one very important thing is on the process for issue of IFRS. Basically, why I talk about IFRS first, as I discussed that Ind AS are based on IFRS. So first IFRS are framed and then Ind AS come into pictures. So process for issue of IFRS, point number one is the identification or review of issues. Somebody may say these are issues under standards, issues in practical issues are there. So then there is a identification of issue, review of issue, consultation, then there's a formation of working group, discussion paper is being done, expose of draft issues, and then final standard. So there is a detailed laid out procedures that has to be followed, and for each process, basically there is a detailed understanding, detailed guidance is there, and then it is to be followed as per the process. Once IFRS is issued, then Ind AS is issued based on IFRS. So then exposure draft of Ind AS is issued. After receipt of comments, then the final Ind AS is issued. So there's a detailed process and discussion paper, exposure draft, working group discussions, and then only the standards are issued. And we can really take participate in every part. We can also give comment to ISB. We can give comment to even ICAI. So we can be part of every moment of this issue of standards. Let us look at the structure of Ind AS. Now, this structure of Ind AS, primarily the objective is that just to give you basic idea that every standard are generally formed into these particular structures. It has always first introduction, then objective, then there is scope, definition, recognition, measurement. So if you really want to learn standard first and look at the why this standard is required, unless until we are clear about why this standard is required, I think there is no point of learning the standards. What this standard is going to solve, which kind of issue it's going to solve, I think that should come out from the learning the standard. So first we talk about introduction, the purpose of issuing standard, objective of the standard, then scope, applicability of the standard, definitions, important terms. Right now, these definitions can also be part of appendix. Recognitions. Recognition means what? Which are the conditions for recognition of assets? Recognition is recognized in the books of accounts. So when can I recognize the transaction in books of accounts? The conditions of recognitions are provided in this measurement. How to measure? Initial measurement, subsequent measurement. Initial measurement is the measurement as of the reporting, as of the transaction date, and subsequent measurement is a measurement as of the reporting date. Then effective date and transitions, appendix, and along with that, under these also we have additional guidance, which is like the basis for conclusions, approval of by the board, and implementation guidance. So this is what the whole structure of Ind AS. As far as Ind AS and IFRS is concerned, under IFRS there is the IFRS standards, IAS standard, there is IFRIC and SOCiE. There are interpretations which are called IFRIC and SOCiE, and there are basically standards which are IFRS and IAS. See, IAS is an international accounting standards which are old. Till 2000, the IAS were there. From 2000 onwards, IFRS are issued. So when we say compliance with the IFRS, it means IFRS plus IAS, they both are standards, plus interpretations, IFRIC and SOCiE. They both, these four are document together are called IFRS compliance. As far as we talk about Ind AS, Ind AS, the numbering, if you look at the Ind AS includes all IFRS plus IAS plus IFRIC plus SOCiE. Now what is done under Ind AS? That interpretations which are IFRIC and SOCiE, these interpretations are taken to appendix, and the IFRS and IAS are being taken to Ind AS. For example, when I talk about Ind AS 1, we are talking about IAS 1. When we talk about Ind AS 101, we are focusing on IFRS 1. So where the IFRS numbers are there, Ind AS is 100 plus number. Where this IAS number are there, Ind AS number are equivalent to IAS number. So Ind AS 7 is nothing but IAS 7, and Ind AS 109 is nothing but IFRS 9. So this is the way the numbering of IAS, Ind AS are there based on IFRS and IAS, and appendixes are nothing but the interpretations which are accumulated together and they are taken as a part of the particular standard. Now let us look at the major impact of Ind AS conversion. Let me see whether the fact Yagnesh is already come or not. Okay, Yagnesh is already there, so I will not take more time, but I will just rush upon the basically this particular major impact. So major impact when I talk about the Ind AS, primarily when we move from AS to Ind AS, the revenue recognitions Ind AS 105, financial instruments one of the most important difference as far as AS to Ind AS is concerned, which is one of the most complex things. However, applicability of financial instruments at particular level may not be so much complex. So there is no need to be really worried about financial instruments, because the applicability of the financial instrument to majority of companies are not very high. So employee benefits, one of the most important difference, which is same for across all companies, is gratuity. Actual gain loss or remeasurement of employee benefit, which is part of OCI. Consolidation, the definition of control is different. Property plant equipment, now no more difference because AS and Ind AS are in sync. Business combinations, so these are the few, but however there are many differences based on the particular company. But there is no need to be worried more, because when you move from AS to Ind AS, there are a handful of differences which are required to understand. But what is more important, that you should have confidence about the looking into everything. The difference may be only 4 or 5, but to arrive and to reach at the 4 or 5 difference, you need to have holistic overview of everything, and then you can conclude about 4 or 5 differences. I've listed down some differences here, but I think the time is not so much available at this juncture, as already 4:59. Yagnesh is already there. I don't want to take more time of Yagnesh, and let me give you a brief overview of refresher course, as the focus is more what we have done, we have taken all major, all important standards we have tried to cover under this particular refresher course. Excellent faculties, as you are going to face right now. Yagnesh is one of the most, because he has been very close to me. We have worked also very good for so many Ind AS courses together. And same way, all faculties of this course have a very detailed, in-depth experience of Ind AS implementation conversions, and they've given more than 100 to 700 sessions of only on Ind AS. That is what we ensure, that they are going to give that knowledge, their experience of Ind AS to all of you. And what is being conveyed to each faculty, that the core principle of standard is to be covered. The key difference between AS and Ind AS has to be covered. Explanation with the use of practical case studies that every faculty will try to cover. Reference to published Ind AS financial statements as much as possible, and the major challenges, practical issues. So see, what we have done, that 8 sessions are there, and every session is having 3 hours, but still the Ind AS is an ocean, so everything cannot be covered in these particular timelines. However, what has been expected from each faculty, that they have to identify the most important critical things, and that most important critical things has to be explained in detail, and that is what every faculty is going to cover here. Things plus sharing of presentation material. So basically, they are going to share presentation material of each faculty to all of you as soon as it is done. So as the chairman panel will also talk about that, we are going to create a WhatsApp group of all of you, and then we'll try to create a Google Drive, and all presentations, all materials of everything will be uploaded on Google Drive, and you can be shared the link, so you can get the material, you can get the presentation very fast. There's no need to worry about, there's no need to wait about the branch uploading a website. So that's what we're trying to do it. And anytime if you have any issues, we are always there. I'm always a call away, I'm always WhatsApp or SMS away. So please be in touch with me if you have any feedback, if you have any suggestions. I'm always there to see that. So this is with this, I wish all of you the best luck. I'm sure that this refresher course is going to be immensely useful to each one of you, and I must compliment to all of you for taking this decision to join courses. Now, with this, we have along with us basically faculty of the session, CA Yagnesh Desai, CA Chintan Shah, who is the coordinator of this particular topic. So I request Yagnesh and Chintan to log in and also switch on their video. Yagnesh and Chintan, please switch on your audio and video. Yes. Chintan, can you log out and log in so Yagnesh can come in center?
Sure.
Yes, welcome Yagnesh bhai. It's always pleasure to have you.
Hi Chintan bhai, how are you? All good?
Yes, all good. Thank you so much. To start with, Yagnesh is always a pleasure, because Yagnesh always believe that learning is always required, but learning with the fun, learning with enjoyment, this is what is required. So Yagnesh, starting with you, I'm sure that it will be a very, very highly positive. All participants are very energetic, and they are ready to hear about you. And Yagnesh, we had a small poll, and as per the poll, 49% of participants have a basic understanding of Ind AS.
That's great. That's great.
48% of participants have average understanding. They have applied Ind AS in small listed companies, and there are 5% of participants who have a high level of understanding of Ind AS. They have applied for critical and complex issue of Ind AS. So this is just for understanding, so you can frame your presentation accordingly as per the need of the participants. And now I request the coordinator of the session, say Chintan Shah, to introduce the versatile personality, say Yagnesh Desai.
Thank you, Chintan bhai. Chintan bhai, just one request. I cannot see myself. So is my video and audio okay? My question to you. Yes. Since I cannot see myself here.
Okay. completely okay, sir.
That's the only concern. Thank you so much, Chintan bhai. Thank you so much. Great. Nice to see you.
Check in, please introduce faculty.
Sure. Thank you, Chintan bhai. CA Chintan Patel, Chairman of this Ind AS committee, CA Yagnesh Desai, today's faculty, and all the participants. A warm welcome for second session of today's first day for Ind AS refresher course. We have been privileged to introduce today's faculty, versatile faculty with CA. He has completed CA and CPA. He since 1983. So he has audit of corporate and taxation matters. He's a duties of ICAI. He's also IFRS trainer of IFRS. He has done diploma in IFRS. Is conducted by ACCA of UK. Accounting and auditing seminars of he has delivered motivational speeches also. Between April 2009 till today, he has delivered 877 sessions. So from this, we can understand the experience of this faculty and how he's delivering the lectures that you will realize after attending this. He is also co-opted member of Academic Standard Board of ICI, and his hobby you will realize during this that with music and with fun how well he will deliver these lectures. So with this brief introduction, let us welcome faculty CA Desai sir. And sir, now
Yeah.
the floor is
Before
yours,
I
sir.
ask
Thank you.
Yagnesh bhai, let me just brief you because Jaikin has provided the formal introductions, but with Yagnesh bhai, actually my relation is such that personally we have attended many conferences, many seminars together as faculty, and we have also visited Muscat and Oman for giving up presentations on training on Ind AS to various corporates. So I think he has been one of the more core person. He is a very senior person, but actually when Yagnesh is there, I always feel he's like my friend, and he always believes like a friend because because the kind of experience, the age doesn't come into mind when Yagnesh is there. So that's what the Yagnesh is all about. Yagnesh, now it's over to you.
Thank you, Chintan bhai, and it was likewise a great pleasure to be with you because वही पुरानी याद आती है मस्कत की जब आप मैं और पराग भाई गए थे जी हाँ and छा गए थे consecutively 3 months, right sir? Okay, so guys, good evening to all of you. How many participants are there, friends? How many participants are there, sir? Jamin bhai, Jakin bhai?
150.
150, a great number. Good evening to all of you, and congratulations that you are embarking on the virtual refresher course of Ind AS. समय की बहुत कमी है, मगर फिर भी बावजूद इससे I'll try to summarize things very clearly. Chintan bhai had given me one hint, sir. Please, Yagnesh bhai, please focus only on the main critical and practical aspects, and which is different from the existing or the erstwhile accounting standards of India. So मेरी कोशिश यही है कि to give some practical examples, relevance and something very important जो ऐसी कुछ घटनाएं हैं, ऐसी कुछ हादसा है जो आपको शेयर करूंगा कि ऐसा भी होता है क्या Ind AS में. I mean in IFRS, yes, it's possible, it's possible. You need to, once I show you an example of the separate and the consolidated financial statements of the same company, same year, and you see how the financial instruments, financial assets are presented. Few financial assets are presented, and I'll show after break ke baad. So here, let's start without doing too much of a dichotomy. So this is going to be our agenda today. In this 1, then in this 8, then there is not much to say in this 7 and in this 10. But I'll still dwell upon something because कुछ तो चीज नहीं आई है जो last 2 साल से है, since last 2 years. I'll dwell upon that. So we'll see that basically in this 1 lays down the presentation requirements of the financial statements, and that is the general purpose financial statements. Though it says the presentation, in some cases it also touches upon the disclosure part also of it. I have mentioned in the last slide of this particular segment in this 1, but I must tell you, as far as we Indians are concerned, we should be equally, or rather I would say more concerned with Division 2, Schedule 3 to the Companies Act. जी हाँ friends, Because as far as India is concerned, as far as we are concerned, the format of the balance sheet and the statement of profit and loss is laid down in detail by the Division 2, Schedule 3 to the Companies Act. Not only that, it gives a very detailed guidelines, so much so that when it comes to the employee cost, employee benefits, how the, and when it comes to the restatement, when it comes to the employee benefit plans, the interest paid, as you know, that employee benefit plans has got three elements: a, the service cost, which includes present and past; b, interest cost; and the last is the remeasurement benefits, which is known as actual gains and losses. So here, Schedule Division 2, Schedule 3 to the Companies Act guides you, give you a guidance that this may, the interest portion may be classified as a finance cost or as an employee cost. So like that, there are बहुत सी चीजें हैं that which is given in the Division 2, Schedule 3 to the Companies Act. Friends, I'll draw your attention to one paragraph and please write down this paragraph number. And जी हाँ दोस्तों, उसका मैं जलवा दिखाने वाला हूँ कुछ स्लाइड्स के बाद, जो काफी हैरत में रख देंगे आपको, which is going to be a very very important and eye-opening. You may be knowing it. I don't say that you are not knowing it, but still, ये दिल है कि मान करना है. Okay, so write down the paragraph number 8.1.8.4. I'll repeat it. Don't worry. 8.1.8.4 of Division 2 to Schedule 3 to the Companies Act. दोस्तों अब मैं केवल Division 2 ही बोलूंगा. Okay, we know that this Schedule 3 is implied, so just write down this paragraph 8.1.8.4 and दिखाऊंगा आपको यही पैराग्राफ का जलवा along with paragraph 54 of IS1. बहुत ही रोचक है. Yes sir. Well, it lays down, Ind AS 1 lays down the minimum requirement of the presentation and the contents, and the presentation can be augmented by the requirement of the other standards. मिसाल के तौर पे Ind AS 33 earning per share, then again IFRS 5 non-current assets held for sale and discontinuing operations. It says that both the standards say that you have to give the disclosure for the income from the discontinued operations, income from continued operations, and the total income of all these. Yeah, friends, and as far as all these three are concerned, you have to also classify, and you know that there are two elements of the statement of income, statement of profit and loss. Internationally, this statement is known as statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income. But India is concerned, we are using this nomenclature. Why? Is it wrong? No, nothing is wrong. Paragraph 8 of IS1, paragraph 8 of IS1 allows that you may use any other nomenclature. For example, the Bayer GM German company is using the income statement. Yeah, just the income statement, which has got two elements. And friends, you'll see that this statement of profit or loss, profit and loss, yes, as far as India is concerned, statement of profit and loss is inclusive of other comprehensive income. So we have three elements, we have three totals. One is profit and loss. Second is other comprehensive income, and third is the total comprehensive income. And third is the total comprehensive income. We'll see one live example of the income statement. Yes, I'll try to show it to you as well. Okay, so that's now the first question arises: on which amount do you calculate the EPS? Now, moderator, if I want to ask a question, how do I know that my friends, my fellow chartered accountants are answering me this question? Because this platform is new to me. So if I'm asking the question, can you tell me EPS, earning per share, is calculated in what? A, profit and loss; B, other comprehensive income; C, total comprehensive income. Can anyone tell me, please? Moderator, can you please help me read their answers? Is it possible or not? Hello? 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 Am I
Yes, sir,
am I
you are
audible? I'm audible, please
yes, sir.
बताइए. Yeah. देखिए, chat is the only जरिया जिनके बीच जिनके माध्यम से मुझे पता चलता है कि यस मैं एक लाइव ऑडियंस के सामने बैठा हूँ. अदरवाइज तो मुझे my life is very blank. So is there a provision that I can hear, or I can read, or you can read the answers for me, or should I forget this? I can't see the chat here. Okay, chat. Okay, chat is here. Okay. All right, guys, can you answer my question? You calculate the EPS on what, sir? A, profit after tax. B, the comprehensive income. C, total comprehensive income. Admin Sahab, you have opened the chat. You kept the chat open. Hello. Is the chat open or not?
Actually, question answer is also open.
Okay, so should I forget this? Should I give up this to ask a question based on the chat? Admin Sahab, please guide me. Admin sir, please guide me. I think let's forget about it. People can sue, that's fine. Okay. All right. So basically, EPS is calculated with reference to profit after tax in neither NCI nor TCI. TCI stands for the total comprehensive income. Now, as we know that it does not lay down the format, which is in India is concerned, Schedule Division 2 is given. And this is applicable to both general financial statement, that is to all entities, and also to applicable to both CFS, consolidated and separate financial statements. Few more concepts are there. Is applicable with the additional disclosure. Now here, I think admin sir, I need to remove this. Admin साहब, this is मेरे बीच में आ रहा है सर.
Sorry, sir.
नहीं, ये जो screen है ना आपका, जो it is coming in between me and my PPT. Okay, it's getting lengthened. Just allow me, friends, just 1 minute. Okay. Now, friends, there's one more concept that कुछ लोग कहते हैं कि in this one में there is no concept of the qualified opinion. There is no concept of the qualified opinion. People say like that, but that's not the real case. The reason being, the standard says that if you have complied with the Ind AS, with the additional disclosures as required by the IFRS, then you're deemed to have complied with all the requirement, and then you're deemed to have presented the financial statement in a fair and true manner. So as far as India is concerned, in a true and fair manner, and as far as international is concerned, a fair manner. So if you have complied with all the Ind AS, then you no need to worry. It's completely a fair presentation of the financial statements, a true and fair view. But to this effect, you have to make a statement in your notes to accounts, which is known as a disclosure, that an entity has complied with all the applicable Ind AS, and this is known as an explicit and undeserved statement, known as an explicit and undeserved statement of compliance with the Ind AS. That is a must. And without that, even if you've complied with all Ind AS, as you're deemed to have not complied with the Ind AS. Okay. Now the question is that, can an entity rectify the inappropriate accounting policies either by making by notes or an explicit statement? The answer is no. If you have not applied accounting policy properly, or in other words, you applied the inappropriate accounting policy, then the disclosure that, look, we have not applied this accounting statement or the policy correctly, that is not a remedy. There's not a panacea. There's not a correcting factor. That's not a remedy. Okay, so that's very important thing. Secondly, I use the word that an explicit and undeserved. When I say explicit, means you have to write very clearly in your notes to accounts that accounts have been prepared by applying the Ind AS. And when I say undeserved, means it's applicable fully to all the accounting, all accounting standards are being taken into account here. Okay. I'm just trying to see the pointer. Mr. Pointer, you are here. Okay, friends. It has to be, all the standards have to be applied completely. You cannot say the 7 after this particular standard, 7 except this particular standard I have applied on. No, you cannot do say. Again, you have to prepare the accounting standard on a going concern. I have covered up some few issues later on, but yes, going concern is very important. And again, only accrual system is to be followed, not a cash flow, except the cash flow information you have to follow the accrual principle of accounting for all entities. So you can say no cash basis. Now we'll see that here what make up the complete set of financial statement is a balance sheet at the end of the period, statement of profit or loss, which includes SOCiE, a statement of cash flow. This is a new statement as compared to the erstwhile non-Ind AS accounting standards, but actually speaking not a new at all. Of course इसको एक स्टेटमेंट का दर्जा दिया गया है, मगर वास्तव में तो शेड्यूल ऑफ इक्विटी ही है. Correct, sir? So nothing big deal about it. Now what is big deal is this note. That's fine, but you have to give a 3 balance sheet. You have to give a 3 balance sheet. If the changes are materials, you have to give the 3 balance sheet, and this is also covered in the Ind AS 8, but Ind AS 8 also is making some reference to it. So the balance sheet at the beginning of the preceding period, when an entity applies accounting policies retrospectively, the condition is or either it apply retrospectively or it makes a retrospective restatement of an element of financial statements. Mr. Moderator, can I ask you the question? Can you please interrupt for a minute? Hello? 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 Admin sir, can you hear me please? Admin sir, can you hear me please?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
but no, I'm asking the question. Now, how do I get the response of the participants when I want to ask some question to them? क्या जरिया है?
सर ऑडियंस को क्वेश्चंस कर सकते हैं, वो क्वेश्चंस का राइस मैं आपको दे सकता हूँ.
नहीं, मैं उनको क्वेश्चन करूंगा, अगर मुझे उनका उत्तर सुनना है तो कैसे कर सकता हूँ?
That is not possible, sir.
Not possible. Can they do it by way of a chat?
No, sir.
No. So, can you ask that someone say that I want to answer the question? Can you do so?
They can write a question. They can raise their hands.
No. But let them raise a hand and then उनको आप unmute करके मुझे सुनना है उनकी आवाज. I want to hear their answer from them.
Okay, that is possible. Okay.
हाँ,
Okay, there are too many people who raise their hands, sir.
हाँ, तो नहीं, I want to hear from them. उनकी आवाज को बुलंद कीजिए सिर्फ. हाँ. All right, sir.
Okay.
So, can I ask the question? What are the elements of financial statements, sir? Please, I want to hear from you guys. I want to see that I'm sitting before a lively crowd. Hello.
Yes, sir. Just
Hello. What are the elements of financial statements? What are the elements of financial statements, sir? Who wants to answer this question? Hello. Admin, sir?
okay. Just I'm making him panelist. Just give me a minute.
अगर ये समय ज्यादा लेता है तो फिर हम एक ही.
Yes, it's taken so many times.
So then let it be the first and the last one, okay?
Okay. So one person is connected right now, Rajendra Kanabar.
राजेंद्र कानाबार जी, आपका स्वागत हो. आपका स्वागत है राजेंद्र जी. ये शो में आपका स्वागत है. आप बताइए, what are the elements of financial statements, Mr. Kanabar?
Kanabar sir, please unmute yourself.
Hello. Admin sir.
उनका ऑडियो कनेक्ट नहीं हो पा रहा है.
ऑडियो कनेक्ट नहीं हो रहा है. मैं समझता हूं कि ये एक्सपेरिमेंट को यहीं पे स्टॉप किया जाए. Let's not experiment this because it's taking time and other participants may get
Too much time, sir.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, fine, sir. Anyway, so elements of financial statements are assets, liability, equity. They are the elements of balance sheet. Income and expenses are the element of the income statement. So when an entity makes a retrospective restatement in the financial statements, or when it reclassifies an item in its financial statement, it has to give you third balance sheet. And what is the third balance sheet? This is at the beginning of the earliest comparative period. There's an example here, a practical example for you. So let's look at this practical example. Okay, sir, let us first look at the practical example. Sir, I'm taking to them reclassification, restatement. All right, sir. Let us go. Can you see, guys, an Excel sheet before you, sir? Excel sheet, can you see the admin साहब आप मुझे बताइए please, can you see the Excel sheet
Your
sir?
Excel sheet is visible, sir.
ओके 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 ओके, आप मुझे एडमिन साहब आप एकदम चुस्त और चौकन्ने रहिए मेरे उत्तर को जवाब देने के लिए सर। हाँ प्लीज, सॉरी मैं आपको बड़ा बड़ा दायित्व दे रहा हूँ। आई एम सॉरी अबाउट इट सर, आई एम सॉरी अबाउट इट।
I do, sir.
ओके ओके okay, now let me reshuffle. Dekhiye sir, a rectification of an error, and we mentioned that when you do a rectification of an error you have to give the third balance sheet. Now what was the concept under the erstwhile accounting standards of India, which is the non-Ind AS standard? Whenever we used to find a prior period error, we used to always account for them uh, in the year in which we found this error, in the year in which we found this error. For example, and under the existing non-Ind AS standards, the error were accounted in the year in which you found the error. But under Ind AS, you don't do so. You do restatement, not just recalculation, restatement of the comparative period. Why? Because the Ind AS wants accounting IS standard, IFRS standard wants accounting statement to be very properly comparable, sir, very properly comparable. Now let us take an example. This is the example of a rectification of an error, okay? And at that point of time, you to give a third balance sheet. The accounting year involved here is 31st December 2019. The comparative is December 2018, and the beginning of the earliest comparative period is 1st Jan 2018. Yes, that's what the standard says. Now, you found an error in 2009 financial year, realizing that during financial year 15, 16, and 17, you have overcharged the depreciation by 50,000 rupees per annum. You have overcharged the depreciation by 50,000 rupees per annum. For 3 years, it's lakh and 50,000 rupees, 1,50,000. So what you do, you calculate this amount of the extra depreciation charge on the property plant equipment, which is lakh and 50 for 3 years, and you pass this entry on 1st January 2018, debiting property plant equipment oblique fixed assets account debit like 50,000 and credit retained earnings. Okay, at that point of time you'll also pass an entry for the deferred tax liability. All right, why? Because you found this error and this is the changes. You have to give a third balance sheet. So you give a balance sheet on 1st Jan 2018 by changing the number in appearing in the financial statements of property plant equipment and also changing the retained earnings. So you're impacting two statements, A, the balance sheet, and B, statement of changes in equity. जी हाँ, statement of changes in equity, you will present it like this. चलिए, let me do let me do immediately with live. Okay, this is statement of changes in equity. Okay, and so you say as at first Jan 2018. Say this is a computer जी आज मुझे साथ दीजिएगा. Okay, retained earnings. All right, so this is say about 1,25,000, 12,50,000 rupees, and add the impact of retrospective rectification. Okay, rectification, that is 1,50,000 rupees. So you're going to add 1,50,000 rupees here on 1st January 2018, and then you say restated. You write here restated as at 1/1/2018. So friends, this is how you make the gain changes in the statement of changes in equity, sir. Okay, you got it, sir? And the impact, the affected elements of the balance sheet, which is the property plant equipment oblique the fixed assets. So this is how you made changes, sir. ये कुछ नई बात है. Yes, so you do this, and many companies have done this in the financial year 17, 18, 19, and 19, 20. Why? They have applied accounting policies retrospectively as required by, for the financial year 19, as required by Ind AS 115, revenue from contracts with customers, and as far as financial year 1920 is concerned, the leases, because as far as 116 is concerned, it allows you three options, either fully retrospective, either fully prospective, or the abridged one. So I hope, friends, you got this very clear, sir. Okay, so this is the explicit statement, very important. You have to make an explicit statement. There myths, there's nothing like the qualified opinion, which is the wrong thing. Okay, fine. Now other comprehensive income, friends, this concept was there with us also. Yes, the accounting treatment which is given in the OCI was also there with us in the non-Ind AS accounting standards. Now let me write it down very clearly. So what you were doing in your non-Ind AS financial statements under the erstwhile accounting standard of ICAI for the following things, and I'm writing to the for the foreign operations. Okay, for the foreign operations, while translating the financial statements of the foreign operations under the erstwhile AS also, the differences on account of the differences of foreign, and I would say the differences on account of the forex, okay, was credited not in P&L, but in FC, in what foreign currency translation reserve. Yes, all right. Pardon my this spell check. As far as revaluation of the fixed assets was concerned, it was credited in revaluation reserve, and which was a part of the equity. It was a part of the equity, and it was not credited in the P&L. It was not credited in the P&L statement. So we had this concept, but we were not calling it other comprehensive income. But now they call it other comprehensive income. Secondly, the big major change. If you look at the items of OCI, you'll see majority of them are for the financial instruments, and we cannot experience that. हमने उसका experience नहीं किया था क्योंकि financial the standards related to the financial statements is 30, 31 and 32 were never notified by the MCA, so they were not publicly or largely applicable, largely applied by the various institute and the companies. So we didn't have experience of the financial instrument standard. अगर ये हमारे पास होते, हमने इसका इस्तेमाल किया होता, तो हम भी आज कहते कि yes, we know the differences, and that this would have recognized in the reserves. AS 30, which has not been made mandatory, but it was not mandatory, but I've seen a couple of companies following the AS 30 voluntarily, which was permissible. But at that point of time, even the cash flow reserve was also recognized not in the income statement, but okay, I got one feedback from someone, that's fine. Okay, it was cash flow reserve was recognized, cash flow head reserve was recognized in the OCI in the reserves. So point is that there's no need to worry about that. There are few select items. The changes in account of that is to be recognized in the OCI net of taxes. अब net of taxes का भी मैं आपको एक मसला बताता हूँ. They keep on rattling net of taxes, net of reclassification. Why the net of taxes? जाहिर सी बात है कि OCI starts when PAT ends. Profit after tax जब खत्म होता है तब OCI start होता है. तो जाहिर सी बात है, when I went to compare apple with apple, I have to be on the same line, on the same page. I cannot add an item I cannot add something to an item which is PAT, which is by making it inclusive of taxes. So अगर मुझे PAT में कुछ ऐड करना है, तो जो मैं ऐड करूंगा वो भी मुझे after tax ही होना चाहिए. So remember, all items of profit OCI have to be presented net of taxes and net of reclassification. जी हाँ, reclassification का मसला भी बहुत ही रोचक है. एंड सिर्फ और सिर्फ आपके लिए मैं लाया हूं एक नया एग्जाम्पल, एंड वो है रिक्लासिफिकेशन एडजस्टमेंट्स। मित्रों, फ्रेंड्स, वेट फॉर सम टाइम, तमाम चीजें बताऊंगा आपको कि कैसे रिक्लासिफिकेशन किया जाता है, रिक्लासिफिकेशन नहीं है तो क्या है। ऑलराइट सर, ओके। सो कंप्लीज, देखिए ओसीआई की आइटम कहते हैं कि आइटम कंप्राइज ऑफ द इनकम इंक्लूडिंग रिक्लासिफिकेशन एडजस्टमेंट इंक्लूडिंग शेयर ऑफ प्रॉफिट्स फ्रॉम द associates and JVs that are not recognized in profit and loss account as required. So standard कहते हैं कि जो स्टैंडर्ड्स के रिक्वायरमेंट के तहत ओसीआई में उससे अगर गिना जाना है तो वो पीएनएल में नहीं आएंगे। सर वी नो इट वेरी क्लियरली सर, हमने इंड एस 16 पढ़ा है, हमने इंड एस 38 पढ़ा है, एंड वी नो सर द वैल्यूएशन ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी प्लांट इक्विपमेंट एंड इंटेंजिबल एसेट्स इज टू बी रिकॉग्नाइज्ड not in PNL but in OCI net of taxes. True, very true, very true. So एक स्टैंडर्ड की रिक्वायरमेंट है कि इसे आप पीएनएल में नहीं लेंगे, इसे आप लेंगे सिर्फ और सिर्फ ओसीआई में। कौन देता है मैंडेट स्टैंडर्ड्स? करेक्ट सर। देखिए सर, एक बहुत ही रोचक बात है, ऑल आइटम्स ऑफ इनकम ओसीआई आर to be classified into two parts. Item that will not be reclassified to subsequently to profit and loss account. ध्यान से सुनिए, item will not be reclassified subsequently to profit and loss account, an item that will be reclassified subsequently to profit and loss account when specific conditions are complied with. I'll give a small example as and when I come, but I have got two examples. One is a reclassification adjustment, second is a non-reclassification adjustment. And friends, don't worry, ये सब चीजें जो यहाँ पे आप देख रहे हैं या तो ये जो भी एग्जाम्पल में दिखाऊंगा ये सब के सब आपके साथ शेयर किया जाएगा। केवल समय देना एक दिन का या एक रात का, that's it. But tomorrow Ahmedabad WRC will get all the material जो मैं आपको यहाँ पे दिखा रहा हूँ। ओके सर, we come here to share whatever मजाक से कहता हूँ we allegedly know, okay, because Ind AS is very deep. As regard the tax effect is concerned, it can be shown item by item or maybe सब आइटम का इकट्ठा करके एक ही आइटम दिखाइए, line item, and then show it in the disclosure. That is also permissible. Fine, okay. Now, yeah. अब सर एक बहुत बड़ा बदलाव आने वाला है 2 साल के बाद, बट आज के दिन केवल थोड़ा जानना जरूरी है कि IS1 may be changed in whether 2022 or 23 by another IFRS. जी हाँ, IFRS X करके एक स्टैंडर्ड है, एक्सपोजर ड्राफ्ट हो चुका है जिसपे बहुत विचार विमर्श हो रहा है, एंड इफ इट इज एक्सेप्टेड इट विल बी चेंज्ड. IS1 will be replaced by another standard IFRS, maybe 18, 19, 20, you never know. But in that case, they have proposed that the item of OCY will be classified in two parts as under remeasurement permanently outside the profit and loss account. क्या बेहतरीन phraseology यूज किए दोस्तों, क्या बेहतरीन, अरे damn it, this is, allow me a minute, ये बहुत ही मुझे हैरान कर रहा है सर. Item that can be item remeasurement permanently outside the profit and loss account and income and expense will be included in profit and loss account with some specific conditions are made in future. So these are the changes which are going to be there in future, but filhal important hai, you need to understand that item that will not be classified and that will be declassified. Okay sir, so these are the various components of the equity, changes in the revaluation surplus pursuant to Ind AS 16 and 38. Then the remeasurement of the defined benefit plan, यहाँ पे एक बहुत बड़ा change है as compared to international system, international practices, international standard called AIS 19. As far as this is concerned, we have stated very clearly that this will be non-reclassifiable adjustment, and the moment the year is over, in the very same year, any actual gains and losses are added or deducted from the retained earning in statement of changes in equity, and they are not debited or credited in the same year in the profit and loss account. So that's why it is known as a reclassification adjustment. सर एक चीज भूल गया, क्षमा चाहता हूँ उसके लिए, कि item that will not be reclassified subsequently to profit and loss account and item that will be classified subsequently to profit and loss account, इन दोनों में राज क्या है, फर्क क्या है? अगर ये नॉन रिक्लासिफिकेशन है तो ये क्रेडिट किए जाएंगे directly in retained earnings and not in profit and loss account. So we know it very clearly. अगर profit and loss में नहीं है तो कहाँ है? अगर profit and loss में नहीं है तो वो retained earning में है. Retained earning which is appearing in statement of changes in equity. Net worth में कोई बदलाव नहीं. कुछ मैंने स्लाइड पे डिस्कस किया है, so तब वो और करेंगे. Okay sir. These are the components of the OCI, gains and losses. You see the effect of changes, translation of the foreign operations. देखिए दोस्तों, foreign operations और foreign transactions में कुछ difference है. ये difference आपको जानना जरूरी है, because we all know foreign operations are what sir, like your JV, like your subsidiary, your associates and branch. These are known as the operations. They are different from the transactions because the exchange gains of transactions are recognized in income statement, in profit and loss account statement, except paragraph D 13AA of Ind AS 101. Except अगर आपने 46A के तहत कुछ exemption claim किया था पुराने स्टैंडर्ड में और उनकी इम्पैक्ट अभी भी है तो अलग बात है, वरना generally 99.99% the exchange gain and differences on transactions are recognized in प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस अकाउंट. जबकि ऑपरेशंस पे जो होते हैं, जिससे मैंने बताया 4 है, तो when you translate the financial statements of that into the functional currency of the parent or the HO, तो चेंजेस जो भी गेन एंड लॉसेस है वो P&L में नहीं जाते बल्कि OCI में जाते हैं, अगेन नेट ऑफ टैक्सेस. अब ये है reclassifiable adjustment. This is a non-reclassifiable adjustment. This is a non-reclassifiable adjustment. This is a reclassifiable adjustment. Then equity instrument designated at other comprehensive income. At the same time, there is one thing called, you know that as far as the financial assets are concerned, there are two elements basically. एक तो होता है debt, DEBT, and second is equity. If the debt instrument is classified as FV, if the debt instrument is classified as fair value through OCI, it is reclassifiable adjustment. If an equity is classified as fair value through OCI, it is a non-reclassifiable adjustment. Okay, sir. So there is you see ये सब जो है सब everything except this and except this. ये सब जो पूरी बलाएं हैं वो पूरी फाइनेंशियल इंस्ट्रूमेंट की है दोस्तों. हाँ, हम तो ये भी करते थे, रिवैल्यूएशन में लेके जाते थे, और हम तो ये भी करते थे. हाँ, केवल ये यहाँ पे एक फर्क है सर. सर थोड़ा तो फर्क होना चाहिए ना, इंडेक्स का इतना बड़ा इंटरनेशनल स्टैंडर्ड है तो कुछ तो अलग नखरे चेंज होना ही चाहिए ना. हाँ, तो एक चेंज है, बाकी सब चीजें हम करते थे, केवल एक ही बात कि हमें उसका एक्सपीरियंस नहीं था. So basically, if you see, all these items are recognized in the OCI net of taxes. अब सर मैं आपको बताऊंगा कि ये reclassification का मसला क्या है सर, and that I'm going to explain you conceptually in a better manner sir. तो देखिए reclassification adjustments मैं बहुत rarely पढ़ता हूँ slides, but कुछ हादसे पे मैं पढ़ लेता हूँ. एंड अब अभी एक हादसा है कि मैं थोड़ा पढ़ लूँ सर. हाँ, so reclassification adjustments are the amount reclassified to profit or loss account in the current period that were recognized in OCI in the current period और previous year. या तो ये साल में या तो पहले कभी ना कभी इसे रिकॉग्नाइज किया था OCI में, जो आज हम ला रहे हैं P&L स्टेटमेंट में. इससे कहते हैं, जी हाँ दोस्तों बहनों भाइयों, इससे कहते हैं reclassification adjustments. And technically we say reclassification arises on this item, whereas non-reclassification adjustment arises in the following item. We can let us see. कंप्यूटर जी अभी हमारे मित्रों को बताइए क्या है. So on disposal of foreign operations in Ind AS 21. So when the foreign operations are disposed of, जबकि ब्रांच बंद होती है, सब्सिडरी नहीं रहती, एसोसिएट्स जीवी नहीं रहते, तब क्या करते हैं, जो भी अक्यूमुलेट हुआ है इक्विटी में उसे आप यहां से उठा के पीएनएल में डाल देंगे। पीएनएल के जरिए वो आएंगे रिटेन अर्निंग में। देखिए उनकी जर्नी, when it is reclassification adjustment, it travels from equity to retain to P&L account and again come back to equity। but देखिए रंग बदल के आते हैं, कैसे रंग बदल के आते हैं, यहाँ पे रंग क्या है उसका, FCTR फॉरेन करेंसी ट्रांसलेशन रिजर्व में ये फिगर बैठा है जी हाँ। and when you close down your operation it comes to be profit and loss, and profit and loss में फिर गंगा बह के आती है रिटेन अर्निंग में। तो सर ज्यादा फर्क नहीं पड़ता, केवल एक से दूसरे जहां पे जाते हैं, बट क्या बताते हैं, हाउ यू ट्रैवल, हाउ द फिगर हैज मूव्ड, द मूवमेंट ऑफ फिगर किसके जरिए, ओसीआई के जरिए। अदर कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव, बहुत ही बेहतरीन स्टेटमेंट है सर। भले हम कहें कि हम यही चीज पहले ही फॉलो करते थे, बट हम पब्लिक को बताते नहीं थे, रीडर्स को बताते नहीं थे, जताते नहीं थे कि ये कैसे मूवमेंट हुई, कहां से आया, जो हम दिखाते हैं ओसीआई के माध्यम से। So OCI really makes a reader understand that how even the equity is changed, how the equity is changed because of the events and not transactions। देखिए ट्रांजैक्शन और इवेंट्स में बहुत भेद है सर। जी हाँ, declaration of dividend, sorry, distribution of dividend is an event, it is not a transaction। Selling good is a transaction, buying good is a transaction, revaluation is an event। रिवैल्यूएशन करते हैं तो आप किसी से क्या खरीद लेते हैं, किसको चेक देते हैं, लेते हैं, नो, इट्स एन इवेंट। सो द इवेंट्स which is not with the outsiders, correct, or is not with outsiders, at that point in time you are transferring certain amounts to the equity, and that's known as the reclassification adjustment। अब नॉन रिक्लासिफिकेशन क्या होता है सर? नॉन रिक्लासिफिकेशन में पहली शब्द आपको ये आते कि सर नॉन रिक्लासिफिकेशन से आपने कहा अमाउंट इज नॉट रिक्लासिफाइड टू प्रॉफिट लॉस अकाउंट, बट कहा, इन रिटेन अर्निंग्स। सो मोमेंट, अब उसकी यात्रा ओसीआई के जरिए नहीं होती सर, उसकी यात्रा ओसीआई के जरिए होती है दिखाने के लिए, बट वो पीएनएल में नहीं जाते, सीधे रिटर्न अर्निंग में जाते हैं। पहले में क्या है सर, देखिए बताता हूँ, यहाँ क्या है, ये इक्विटी में बैठा है, पीएनएल में है, वापस इक्विटी में आ रहा है ना सर। यहाँ पे इक्विटी में है और ओसीआई के जरिए, ये देखिए इक्विटी है, ओसीआई में आते हैं, पीएनएल में आता है एंड वापस इक्विटी में जाके बैठ जाते हैं, घर वापसी। यहाँ पे क्या है सर, इक्विटी में है, यस, is the revaluation reserve appearing in the statement of changes in equity, it is coming to OCI। ये पीएनएल में जाता है, बोला ना हम आपको नहीं आना है, हम तो वापस चले जाएंगे रिटेन अर्निंग में। सो यहां से वो सीधे रिटेन अर्निंग में जाते सर। सो ये इनकी यात्रा है, मगर ओसीआई के जरिए, जिससे पढ़ने वाले को पता चलता है कि ओसीआई में, अरे सॉरी, द स्टेटमेंट ऑफ चेंजेस इन इक्विटी में जो चेंजेस हुए वो कैसे हुए, किस चीज के लिए हुए, कितने हुए चेंजेस, करेक्ट सर। सो ये बहुत ही अहम स्टेटमेंट है। ओके, नाउ आई हैव मेड सम स्टेटमेंट when some, okay, reclassification means balance in equity is transferred directly to profit and loss account, and यहाँ पे मेरा व्यत्यय थोड़ा बढ़ाता हूँ, and again coming back to retain earnings, again coming back to non-reclassification means directly to retain earning in statement of changes in equity OCI के माध्यम से सर। ओके सर, accounting treatment of the reclassification adjustment is the amount accumulated in the equity is transferred to P&L account. Then to put it differently, accumulated is not transferred to retained earning directly, it is transferred via P&L account। It impacts earning per share। जाहिर सी बात है कि when I close an entity's business abroad, the amount is plowed back to P&L account, which increases my profit and as a result my earning per share। So these items impact the EPS, whereas this item, all right, then उसके बाद ये जाते हैं रिटेन अर्निंग। अब देखिए लाइन मेरे दोनों कॉमन है यहाँ पे कि रिटेन अर्निंग्स, that is the net worth remains same regardless of whether it is a reclassification or non-reclassification, sir। Whereas non-reclassification is accumulated in the equity is transferred to retain earnings and not to P&L account, it is transferred to retain earning OCI के माध्यम से। To put it differently, they are not transferred to P&L account। चलिए सर गौर करते हैं अब सर सर बहुत पक गए हम, बहुत पक गए सर। आई नो पक गए होंगे, आई नो यू मस्ट बी पकोफाई। सो एक लाया हूँ स्टेटमेंट आपके लिए, जी हाँ, सिर्फ और सिर्फ आपके लिए लाया हूँ, एंड दैट इज दिस स्टेटमेंट। जी हाँ दोस्तों, ये स्टेटमेंट आपके लिए लाया हूँ, वो आपको बहुत ही अच्छा रहेगा। एंड दिस इज अ reclassification adjustment. Don't worry, I can hear your voice, I can hear your feelings, I can believe you, what I can sense what you say, even if we cannot chat सर। बट आज कुछ मुझे अधूरा लग रहा है सर, कुछ अधूरा लग रहा है, क्योंकि चैट बंद है, तो मैं मेरे मित्रों की आवाज, उनके दिल की आवाज नहीं सुन पाता हूँ सर। एंड ये है एक देयर इज अ लैक्यूना हियर, बट आई हैव टू लीव विद दैट, बिकॉज़ जब तक आपकी आवाज, आपकी हमिंग साउंड, आपकी कमेंट नहीं सुन पाता हूँ, मैं अपने आप को एक अधूरा समझता हूँ सर। चलिए सर गौर करते हैं एग्जाम्पल ऑफ द रिक्लासिफिकेशन। कंप्यूटर जी, चलिए हमारे मित्रों को बताते हैं रिक्लासिफिकेशन का एग्जाम्पल। गाइस, आर यू ऑल रेडी? एडमिन साहब, कैन यू सी द एक्सेल शीट ऑन योर स्क्रीन? यस बताइए मुझे तुरंत।
Yes, sir.
ओके ओके, एटलीस्ट सुनो सुनो एडमिन साहब, कुछ और नहीं, आप तो कुछ मुझसे वार्तालाप कीजिए।
Yes,
ओके
sir.
सर, नहीं तो मुझे लगता है मैं हवा में बात कर रहा हूँ। ओके,
Sure, I
बिकॉज
will be.
अब सर, अब तक
Okay,
हम
okay,
जो
sir.
व्याख्यान देते थे, अब तक हम व्याख्यान देते हैं बतौर फैकल्टी। बट जी हाँ दोस्तों, अब जो हमें काम करना पे है बतौर फैकल्टी नहीं, बट बतौर एक एक्टर, या तो सुधीर चौधरी, या तो कुछ न्यूज रीडर के जैसे हमको लगता है कि हम ऐसी भूमिका कर रहे हैं। कठिन है, बट निभाना पड़ता है ना? और ये निभाना पड़ता है क्योंकि जो
Like, that's why,
आता
sir, you are a versatile
है
actor.
वो निभाना पड़ेगा, है ना सर? तो 6 बजे बिल्कुल सर, एडमिन साहब अगर आपकी इजाजत हो तो मैं छोटा सा एक गाने का मुखड़ा भी दे दूंगा आपको, है ना सर? हाँ वो तो करना ही पड़ेगा ना सर। अच्छा
Sure,
अच्छा,
sure, sure,
हाँ,
sir.
ये ये stop, हाँ, अभी ये पॉज हो गया ना? अच्छा ठीक है ठीक है, ना ऑलराइट। देखिए ये एग्जाम्पल है नॉन रिक्लासिफ नहीं रिक्लासिफिकेशन, क्षमा कीजिएगा, इज एग्जाम्पल ऑफ रिक्लासिफिकेशन एडजस्टमेंट। ऑन 1st April 2019 an entity has made an investment in a debt instrument and it is classified as a fair value through OCI। टेक्निकली कहते हैं FVTOCI, या हमारे डिवीजन 2 में कहते हैं FVOCI, कुछ लोग कहते हैं अरे भाई FVTOCI। देखिए कंप्यूटर जी, आज आपको मेरा साथ निभाना पड़ेगा बिकॉज समय बहुत कम है। इंक्रीज इन द फेयर वैल्यू बाय 31st March 2020 इज 1 lakh। ओके, सो आई विल पास, मैं आपको जर्नल एंट्री देता हूं सर। मुझे पता है कि हमारे जहन में, हमारे जीन्स में, हमारे डीएनए में जर्नल एंट्री होती है, एंड विदाउट जर्नल एंट्री हमें चैन नहीं आता, हमें चैन नहीं पड़ता। ओके, तो आपको मैं चैन दिलाता हूं बाय पासिंग दिस एंट्री। डेबिट FVTOCI। I think I have passed an entry. What am I doing, sir? I already passed an entry. Yes. हाँ, I pass an entry, debit FTV debit FVT 1 lakh rupees, credit deferred tax liability 30,000, presuming tax at 30%, and credit reserve for FVT. Why have I passed an entry? Because always remember, my dear friends, whenever the carrying value of an asset is more than the tax base, it always results into deferred tax liability। सर हम जानते हैं, मगर फिर भी ये दिल है कि मानता नहीं सर। Note down this, sir. Whenever the carrying value of an asset is more than the tax base, it invariably results into the DTL, and then you can apply the permutation combination for the liabilities and for less than and more than this। चलिए कंप्यूटर जी आगे बढ़ते हैं, चलो। So this is recognized। अब देखिए सर, मैं पूरी कहानी बता रहा हूँ कि मेरा इनकम फ्रॉम द कंटिन्यूइंग ऑपरेशन इज अबाउट 7,50,000 rupees, tax is so much, so is post tax 525, and my here it's 1 lakh rupees less taxes, so outer column is 70,000 rupees। and now देखिए जलवा साहब, ये इक्विटी में स्टेटमेंट ऑफ चेंज इन इक्विटी नाम की बला है, उसमें उसको कैसे डिवाइड की जाती है। जी हाँ, सो 525 तो मेरी इनकम थी ये, एंड मेरा टोटल था TCI 595। सर बता दूं, EPS is calculated only on this, okay, neither on this nor on this, okay। जो ऐसी आइटम है उसको ऐसा हो जाता है, है ना, जो वर्टिकल है वो सीधे हॉरिजॉन्टल बन जाता है। कैसे? ऐसे। So 525 will be added to the retained earnings and 70,000 net of tax will be added to the reserve for fair value OCI. So this is the cost, this is the unrealized gain, and my carrying value is 3 lakh at the end of year 1. Okay. चलते हैं अगला कदम. Next piece of information is sold during the year, I would say in quarter 2. I would say in quarter 2. इसके पीछे एक राज है. क्या राज है? अब पता चलेगा जब आप देखेंगे. ओके. एडमिन साहब, एडमिन सर, हेलो. अरे भाई.
Yes, sir.
एडमिन साहब, हाँ. आप जैमिन जैरिन भाई है ना? जैमिन भाई ना सर? हाँ
हाँ, Jack.
हाँ हाँ. तो आपको समझ में आता है सब? आप बोलो ना तो मुझे खुद तो तसल्ली मिले कि सर इतना बोलता हूँ तो अलग खुद तो अच्छा. हाँ भाई बोलो ना जरा.
Sure, sir.
समझ में आता है सर? आर यू ओके? कैन आई गो अहेड फर्दर?
Yes, 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 yes. You can go ahead, sir.
ओके ओके. तो 3.5 पेटी में 3.5 लाख में मैंने आइटम बेचे, सॉरी ये डेट इंस्ट्रूमेंट बेचा. हाँ. सो 2 lakhs plus 1 lakh and 3 lakh 50 my sold. So I made actual profit of 50,000 rupees. But ये स्टैंडर्ड क्या कहते हैं? ये स्टैंडर्ड कहते हैं कि you should recognize this gain in OCI first. तो देखिए क्वार्टर 1 में मैंने 35,000 के. अरे सर आप तो 50,000 बोल रहे, अब क्यों पलट गए 35? कहीं मेरी गलती तो नहीं ना?
Tax.
अरे क्या बात है, एडमिन हो तो ऐसे. So I am passing entry at the end of quarter 1. Debit FET OCI. FET OCI is 50,000. Credit deferred tax lab. Oh, sorry. Credit deferred tax liability 15,000, and this is a 35,000 rupees. Fine. So now, if I go to see how much is the total in my FET OCI. कंप्यूटर जी आज मुझे आपको साथ निभाना है प्लीज. 70,000 was earlier, 100 का 70, यस ये यहाँ से आए, एंड ये साल का 35, टोटल आया 105. तो सर आप मुझे बोलेंगे कि आपने तो 1.5 लाख का किया था प्रॉफिट से. सर ये एंट्री कुछ ऐसे होती है. deferred tax liability is 45,000 rupees. yes वो 45 कैसे आए? हाँ 30 पहले के थे, अब 15, 45. यस बराबर. कंप्यूटर जी थैंक यू फॉर योर सहयोग. हाँ एडमिन साहब बराबर है, हमारा कैलकुलेशन बराबर है. हाँ बात बाकी सरवाड़ा
Yes,
अच्छा किया.
perfectly true, sir.
सरवाड़ा बात बाकी अच्छा किया.
बराबर है.
हाँ बराबर है. तो
अच्छा है,
45 है. अच्छा 45 है. हाँ हाँ मजा आती है सर. अब लगता है कि मैं जिंदा हूँ. यस दैट्स इट. ओके सो मैं क्रेडिट करूंगा 1,50,000 टू प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस. जी हाँ बेनू भाई हो, यहाँ पे आ गया मेरा पीएनएल अकाउंट 1,50,000. I am crediting because this is my reclassifiable recyclable adjustment. चलिए सर ये हमने गौर किया रिक्लासिफिकेशन. अब गौर करते हैं नॉन रिक्लासिफिकेशन का. सर यहाँ पे मैं आपको थोड़ा ज्ञान दूंगा इंड एस 16 का भी. जी हाँ दोस्तों भाइयों, जर्नल एंट्री के माध्यम से एंड बकायदा विद रेफरेंस ऑफ पैराग्राफ्स ऑफ इंड एस आल्सो. ये बहुत ही जरूरी है सर. मैं सर एक बातों में आपको इंड एस 16 का भी थोड़ा ज्ञान देते जाऊंगा कि रिवैल्यूएशन होते हैं तो क्या करना चाहिए. मैंने 3 कंपनी ऐसी देखी, इन्होंने रिवैल्यूएशन किया बट कुछ गड़बड़ कर दी थी. हाँ वो गड़बड़ किस लिए की थी? वो पैराग्राफ 35B ऑफ इंड एस 6 का पालन नहीं करके उन्होंने की थी. पालन करके सर कोई राय का पहाड़ नहीं था, मगर सर अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड की हर सेंटेंस की, हर प्रावधान की अहमियत रखनी चाहिए. नहीं तो वो लिखते क्यों, है ना? नहीं तो अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड रखे क्यों? पर सर हमें उसकी अहमियत रखनी है, अभी इसे फॉलो करना है, वी हैव टू कंप्लाई विद दैट, है ना? कैसे करने बताता हूं आपको. हाँ पूरा देखिए. अब ये बात है रिवैल्यूएशन ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी प्लांट इक्विपमेंट. So when a new machinery was purchased on 1st of April 2018 for 10 पेटी 1 million, useful life is 10 years, residual value is 0, tax rate is 25%. आप बोलेंगे सर क्यों मगजमारी कर रही है, डेप्रिसिएशन में टैक्स रेट लगता है क्या? अरे भाई लगता है, जरा सुनो नहीं तुम. रिवैल्यूएशन में लगता है ना. हाँ देखो एडमिन साहब लगता है कि नहीं रिवैल्यूएशन में? लगता है ना सर?
नहीं सर, रिवॉल्यूशन में नहीं लगेगा.
रिवैल्यूएशन लगेगा. बताता हूं आपको. आपको दिखाता हूं कैसे लगता
Okay.
है। ओके, चलिए सुनिए कंप्यूटर जी, पहला पड़ाव, पहला वर्ष, फाइनेंशियल ईयर 18-19, 10 lakhs, useful life 10 years, तो 1 lakh is my depreciation, carrying value is 9 lakhs, बिल्कुल ओके, नो प्रॉब्लम, यहां तक सब सलामत है। 1 अप्रैल 2019 को उन्होंने अप्रैल फुल नहीं किया मगर रिवैल्यूएशन किया। द बैलेंस यूजफुल लाइफ रिमेन्स सेम, जी हाँ सेम, 9 साल बचते हैं, 10 में से एक गए। सो माय डेप्रिसिएशन इज टू बी ऑन 12 lakhs रुपीस, 12 पेटी इज रिवैल्यू टू 12 lakhs, दैट मींस मैंने इजाफा कितने का किया, 3 पेटी का। ओके
2 लाख।
हाँ, अरे
3।
भाई मारा 3 का किया यार,
राइट।
हाँ
3
ओके,
का 3 का।
हाँ 3 का तिनखे की जरूरत है, ओके वो आप बना रहे हैं मुझे। सो 3 पेटी का क्या, और आपने मुझे तिनखे का सहारा दिया आपकी आवाज के जरिए। तो ये था मेरा 9 ईयर का डेप्रिसिएशन ऑन फर्स्ट ईयर। अब देखिए, अब करिश्मा दिखाता हूं आपको जनाब। जब मैंने रिवैल्यू किया, इसको मैं थोड़ा छोटा करता हूँ। अच्छा, जब मैंने रिवैल्यूएशन किया तो मेरा 1 पेटी का डेप्रिसिएशन अक्यूमुलेटेड था, दैट मींस 1 लाख का डेप्रिसिएशन था अक्यूमुलेटेड। अब पैराग्राफ 35B ऑफ इंड एस 16 कहते हैं कि व्हेन यू रिवैल्यू अ प्रॉपर्टी प्लांट इक्विपमेंट यू नीड टू डी रिकॉग्नाइज द अक्यूमुलेटेड डेप्रिसिएशन। दोस्तों ये वो 3 कंपनी ने नहीं किया था, आप नहीं करेंगे, ओके क्योंकि अब आप पढ़ रहे हैं 35B विथ राकेश यज्ञेश रोशन के साथ। ओके चलो, अक्यूमुलेटेड डेप्रिसिएशन को मैंने कल्टी.com किया एंड प्रॉपर्टी प्लांट इक्विपमेंट को मैंने क्रेडिट किया। अब देखिए कि मेरी यहाँ पे जो ये आइटम थी, और सो दिस हैज नाउ बिकम 9 लाख रुपीस एंड दिस हैज बिकम 0। ओके, तो मैं यहाँ पे ये थोड़ा बदलाव करके आगे बढ़ता हूँ। सो नेक्स्ट एंट्री विच आई पास, आप बोल रहे थे ना मॉडरेटर साहब कि आपको टैक्स की क्या आवश्यकता है, अब आवश्यकता है। डेबिट्स प्रॉपर्टी प्लान इक्विपमेंट 3 लाख, credit deferred tax liability 75,000 of 3 lakhs is 75,000, 25% of 3 lakhs is 75,000 rupees, and balance is credited to revaluation reserve. This is accumulated in equity, this goes to your DTL. In OCI you will be presenting 3 lakhs minus 75 outside the column 225. All right, then you depreciate for the end of year 2 13,000 1,23,333। क्या फिगर है साला, मस्त फिगर है, मजा पड़ गई, जलसो થઈ ગયો બાપુ, 1,03 ટીકડા, મજા આવી
બધા
ગઈ,
તગડા।
બધા તગડા છે, બધા તગડા ને અમારા પેરે બધા પાર્ટિસિપન્ટ બધા તગડા છે અને મજા આવી ગઈ સાલી, હા પણ ચાલો બાપુ મજા આવી ગઈ, ચાલો so okay, now I have to reverse my this thing. Now this is requirement of the paragraph 41 of Ind AS 16. This is optional, चाहे आप हर साल कर सकते हैं या तो अंत में जब उसे डी रिकॉग्नाइज करेंगे तब, बट नॉर्मली कंपनीज फॉलो इट एवरी ईयर। सो आई डेबिट माय वैल्यूएशन रिजर्व बाय 25,000 and credit reversal of DTL is 83333, and here it is reversal of retained earnings, not profit and loss account, my dear friend. I'm crediting to retained earning because this is my non-reclassification adjustment। सलाम दोस्तों, अब आपको दिखाऊंगा कि ये इसका चलवा क्या है। रिवैल्यूएशन रिजर्व की लाइफ देखिए कैसे बढ़ रही है। At the end of year 1 there was no revaluation, so 0. At the end of year 2 is 2 lakhs, yes 2 lakhs कैसे आया, हाँ अरे एडमिन भाई जरा समझाओ नहीं मैंने 2 लाख कैसे आया, वो तो 225 था। अरे हाँ
I think it has been
225
taken on original।
हाँ नहीं नहीं 225 तो था, बट अभी इधर मैंने डेबिट किया ना सर, हाँ आई हैव डेबिटेड ना सर,
हाँ।
हेलो 31 मार्च 3/20 को मैंने डेबिट किया ना सर, तो इसके वजह से 225 का हो गया 2 lakhs। देन एवरी ईयर यू आर
2
रिड्यूसिंग
लाख।
25,000 रुपीज, सो दिस इज बिकमिंग, अरे सर 27-28 में तो वो हो गए 9-2-11 है ना, जीरो થઈ ગયો હવે सेम अरे 9-2-11 हो गए। और यहाँ भी जो था फिगर 75,000, सर मैं थोड़ा कैलकुलेट कर लूं, 75,000 कंप्यूटर जी इज्जत रखना, या करेक्ट 8,333। अरे सर इतना दूर कहाँ गए सर, आपके सामने ही फिगर था। हाँ ओके, उसको मैंने रिड्यूस किया 75,000। कभी कभी गलती में मिस्टेक हो जाती है। तो हाँ 75,000 माइनस 8,333 इज दिस। तो ये है मेरी मूवमेंट ऑफ द डीटीएल। एंड दोस्तों दिस इज नोन एज नॉन रिक्लासिफिकेशन एडजस्टमेंट, एंड दिस एग्जांपल था। बट सर आपको एक बात ध्यान रखना है कि व्हेन एंटिटी रिवैल्यू प्रॉपर्टी प्लान इक्विपमेंट इट शुड डी रिकॉग्नाइज द accumulated बैलेंस शीट। ये दोस्तों तीन बड़ी कंपनी जिनके ऑडिटर्स भी काफी काफी बड़े होनहार हैं, हाँ उनका नाम नहीं देना चाहता हूँ, उन्होंने ये गलती की कि आप ये गलती मत करना। जी हाँ ओके सर, फाइन सर। सो ये रिक्लासिफिकेशन में भी ऐसा एडजस्टमेंट होता है, यू टू गिव द थर्ड बैलेंस शीट। सर अभी हम पक गए सर, भी कुछ हो जाए। वाह
Sure, sir.
बापू मजा पड़ी गई। हाँ इलस्ट्रेशंस jalsa.com साली मजा आया। हाँ ओके, अब ये है कौन सा, हाँ ये है बैलेंस शीट, स्टैंड अलोन बैलेंस शीट। दोस्तों मैंने आपको एक पैराग्राफ नंबर दिया था 8.1.8.4 ऑफ डिविजन 2 शेड्यूल 3 टू द कंपनीज एक्ट। एडमिन साहब તમે ત્યાં હતા કે પછી ગપ્પા મારતા હતા કે વોટ્સએપ જોતા હતા?
ના અહીંયા જ હતો, અહીંયા જ
व्हाट्सएप
હતો.
नोता, व्हाट्सएप नोता जोता ना बापू। हाँ ओके, सो
ના
मैंने
ના
आपको ये पैराग्राफ लिखवाया था 8.1.8.4 ऑफ डिवीजन 2 शेड्यूल 3 टू द कंपनीज एक्ट। आपके पास है कंप्यूटर जी, पढ़िएगा उसमें क्या लिखा है सर। सर देखिए थोड़ा इसको बड़ा करता हूँ। ये देखिए फाइनेंशियल एसेट्स, फाइनेंशियल एसेट्स में मैंने एक चीज लिखी है, इन्वेस्टमेंट इन सब्सिडरी and second companies and joint ventures companies and subsidiary companies and joint venture companies। या तो ये जो फिगर है ना 202,
Yes.
इसमें दो चीजें शामिल है, एक शामिल है, एक तो है सब्सिडरी कंपनीज, दूसरी है जेवीज। अब हमें पता है कि जेवी को इंडेस 28 के तहत is to be measured by applying equity method। हाँ by applying equity method। We know said earlier only earlier associates को ही equity method देते थे, applicable करते थे, and associates को JVs को नहीं करते, but now even JVs are accounted for using equity method। तो ये financial assets की classification में नीचे आया है सर, है ना, financial assets की classification के नीचे है। अब देखिए यही चीज यही कंपनी, हाँ दूसरे साल में क्या है सर, दूसरे साल में क्या है, बाय मारा सर, ये दूसरे साल का क्यों नहीं, हाँ इधर है, इधर इधर हाँ सॉरी आपको બધું હામે છે પણ ઘણી વાર છે ને ગડબડ થઈ જાય।
કાખમાં છોકરું હોય તો શોધવું પડે.
હા થાય એવી રીતે ને એમાં આ સાલું વેબિનારમાં છે ને સાહેબ બહુ લોચા પડે। હા એક બટન દબાવો તો પેલું ગાયબ થઈ જાય, અને બીજું બટન દબાવો તો ક્યાંથી ક્યાં નીચેથી ઉપડી આવે, ક્યાંક થઈ જાય, સાલું ખબર નહીં પડે। એટલે બટન દબાવતા ध्यान રાખવું પડે। हाँ હવે अब देखिए ये जो इन्वेस्टमेंट्स है ना, अच्छा ये है कंसोलिडेटेड, आपके सामने ये जो स्टेटमेंट है ना, ये कंसोलिडेटेड फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट है। कौन सा स्टेटमेंट है सर, कंसोलिडेटेड फाइनेंशियल, वही कंपनी वही साल एवरीथिंग। बापू पाछो आ गुलाबी આવી ગયું કઈ હાયર છે ને આ જ લફડું થાય। ચલો નહીં આવી ગયું ઓકે। નાउ sir we all know that investment in subsidiary is never there in consolidated financial statement। सर आप भी जानते हैं और मैं भी जानता है, कुछ नया नहीं है, नया ये है, क्या है, यहां देखिए ये फाइनेंशियल एसेट्स के बाहर दिखाता है, आउटसाइड द फाइनेंशियल एसेट्स क्या दिखाता है, इन्वेस्टमेंट, हाँ क्या लिखा है, इन्वेस्टमेंट अकाउंटेड फॉर यूजिंग इक्विटी मेथड, that means nothing but investment in JVs or associates. In this case, it is JVs. So investment in JV for the same company in the consolidated financial statement is not presented as financial statements, financial assets, but it is presented outside outside the financial assets। कौन बोले, कोई कन्या बोले, हेलो एडमिन साहब,
Hello. Yes.
कोई किसी ने बोला, कौन बोले,
નહીં નહીં ના અત્યારે તો કોઈ નથી બીજું.
મને અવાજ સંભળાવો ને કોઈ કન્યાનો. Someone say it, some of the
કદાચ
participants
ટેકનિકલ ફોલ્ટ હશે.
technical. No, but if some participant wants to say something, they are always welcome, sir. No issue. Okay. All
Sure.
right, sir. And sir, second is current and non-current, hai, sir. So whichever method, this is one area where I found that there are very less, कुछ compliance में कुछ कमी होती है, कुछ तब्दीली होती है compliance में. और वो compliance की तब्दीली क्या है दोस्तों कि sir, whichever the method is followed, you have to mention in disclosure that what amount is to be received within 12 months from the end of the reporting period and what amount to be received beyond 12 months from the end of the reporting period. So yes sir, ये ध्यान रहे कि आपको we have to be very careful about it, sir. Okay, and then now we'll see that this is the current and non-current, sir. एडमिन साहब, ये करंट एंड नॉन करंट पे मैं ज्यादा थोड़ा अगर आपकी इजाजत तो नहीं गौर करूंगा. ये है पूरे आपके पास, कोई नई चीज नहीं है हमारे पास, because we are left with only 50 minutes and 50 minutes में I have to cover 3 standards. तो थोड़ी मुझ पे दया रखो क्योंकि Ind AS 8 के लिए भी
Sure,
मैंने
sir, no problem.
कुछ एग्जांपल्स दिए हैं, काफी रोचक है and you love to do so. There is no much. Over to Ind AS 8.
Sure, sir,
Acha.
you can go ahead with that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Now the key principle is that oh sorry ये सर ये पर्दा थोड़ा जल्दी गिर गया because the key principles जो हमारे Ind AS 8 के थे ना या 1 के थे, थोड़ा भूल गया, पर्दा थोड़ा जल्दी गिर गया साहब, वो लोचा हमारा थोड़ा. चलो ओके. एक तो फेयर प्रेजेंटेंस की बात की मैंने, compliance with all the Ind AS. Then accrual system of is to be followed. Frequency of reporting is always 12 months, not 52 weeks. Material aggregation and desegregation, comparative information review. Offsetting is very, very important, sir, that you can offset only few items which is permitted under this standard. Like you can offset the foreign exchange gains and losses. Foreign exchange gain can be offset against the foreign exchange losses and vice versa. But don't offset interest received against interest expenses. एक दो बैलेंस शीट मैंने देखी सर जिसमें इंटरेस्ट एक्सपेंसेस में लिखा है माइनस इंटरेस्ट इनकम. फिर मैंने यार वो कंपनी को फोन किया तो बोला सर वो थोड़ा रह गया था मिस्टेक. પછી बाद में सब जब मेरे एक बैंक का मैंने सर जो CAM डेटा रहता है ना, CAM बराबर ना सर, बराबर बोले ना हम, CAM डेटा,
हाँ,
CAM डेटा, तो वो डेटा जब
CMA.
भरने लगा, हाँ CMA, हाँ CMA, हाँ हाँ, तो वो डेटा में भरने लगा ना सर, मैं तभी मैं देखा कि वो जनाब ने जानबूझ के मिस्टेक की थी, बिकॉज टू कवर टू शो द लेसर इंटरेस्ट, अल्टीमेटली टू शो द वेरी हैंडसम DSCR, डेट सर्विस कवरेज रेशियो. बापू बराबर बोलो ने, लोचा नहीं मारा ना? हाँ,
Yes.
DRCP
बराबर.
ऐसा. सो डेट सर्विस कवरेज रेशियो बेहतरीन दिखाने के लिए उन्होंने ये किया था मिस्टेक. जानबूझ के मत करो सर. एक हमारे एक शहर का नाम नहीं बताऊंगा, बट इन्होंने एक बैलेंस शीट मुझे ऐसे ही बोला कि यज्ञेश भाई શું કરો છો? મેં કહું નહીં કઈ, તો સાહેબ વેબિનાર માં હમણાં તો લોકડાઉન માં ઘરે જ છો ને? મેં કહું હા બાપુ એક બેલેન્સ શીટ મોકલું જરા જોઈ લેજો ને. કે હા ઠીક છે. હવે મેં કહ્યું ઠીક છે, આપણા મિત્ર છે તો જોઈ લે. तो बापू ने क्या किया था, बापू ने वो कंपनी में ओनली रिसीट्स, जीरो बैलेंस शीट, बैलेंस शीट जीरो, पूरी जितनी इक्विटी इतना लॉस कर चौपड़ा बंद कर दिया. मैं देखा लेट मी सी द प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस अकाउंट, तो प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस अकाउंट में इनकम कुछ नहीं, एक्सपेंस दर दड़ा धुमाड़ा काट नाखा था. 8 करोड़ का एक्सपेंस दिखाया. तो मैंने पूछा उसको भाई एक्सपेंस क्या? तो सर राइट ऑफ एंड राइट बैक का नेट. मैं को कम अगेन, क्योंकि कुछ हमने राइट बैक किया था ना, कुछ राइट ऑफ किया था. તારી ભલી થાય. मैं बोला भाई મારા આવું ના થાય ભાઈ, આપણે કેટલા એટેમ્પ માં પાસ થયેલા એને ને તને જ ખબર, મેં કોઈને કહેતો નહીં હમણાં, પણ આ આવું કર્યું હોય તો આને છે ને આવી રીતે એડે ના જવા દેવાય ભાઈ મારા. ઓકે, સો બી કેરફુલ. સો ઓફસેટ જ્યાં થતું હોય થાય ત્યાં દરેક જગ્યાએ સરવાળા બાદબાકી ના કરાય ભાઈ. બાદબાકી ને સરવાળા કરો તો પ્રોફિટ તો એ જ આવવાનો છે, लॉस तो એ જ आने वाला है, बट अहमियत रखनी है हमें किसकी? स्टैंडर्ड्स की. तो मुझे बोला सर आप वो कॉस्ट को एक्यूमुलेटेड डेप्रिसिएशन से क्यों कम करते हैं? फिर उसने मुझे बोला कि सर ट्रेड रिसीवेबल्स को प्रोविजन के साथ क्यों कम करते हैं? अरे मैं को तने क्या बोलूं, अभी सूरती भाषा में कुछ बोलने वाला था बट नहीं बोलता हूँ। अरे मैं को डब्बा। तो जो कॉस्ट ऑफ असेट्स के सामने अक्यूमुलेटेड डेप्रिसिएशन या तो अक्यूमुलेटेड इम्पेयरमेंट होता है, या तो फिर द प्रोविजन फॉर द ऑब्सोलेंस ऑफ द इन्वेंट्री, या तो फिर ट्रेड रिसीवेबल्स का जो अभी नया जो फतवा करते हैं ना, ईसीएल का फतवा निकाला है उन्होंने, एक्सपेक्टेड क्रेडिट लॉस मेथड। हाँ, तो वो जो डिडक्शन होता है इसे ऑफसेटिंग नहीं कहते। हाँ, उसे ऑफसेटिंग नहीं कहते, स्टैंडर्ड्स ने बयां किया है, मैं नहीं बोल रहा हूँ। तो आप बोलेंगे सर अगर ऑफसेटिंग नहीं कहते तो उसको क्या कहते हैं? उसे कहते हैं कॉन्ट्रा टू अकाउंट्स। इसे कहते हैं कॉन्ट्रा टू अकाउंट्स। दैट मींस अमेरिकन भाषा में, सॉरी एफपीसीपीए की भाषा में इसे कहे, दीज आर नीदर एसेट्स नॉर लायबिलिटीज, दीज आर अलाउंस अकाउंट, these are contra to the assets. Correct, sir? So the accumulated depreciation, the
Yes.
allowance for the બાપુ તમે હા પાડી એટલે આપણે જલસા પડી હા યાર, એમ લાગે કે નહીં આપણે સાચું બોલીએ સર? अपने को भी लगता है कि सच्चा बोलते हैं। हाँ, ओके ओके। नहीं, आदमी को एक तिनके का सहारा चाहिए, राइट? देखिए एक शर्ट लेने भी जाते हैं ना, कोई नहीं रहता है तो आप दुकानदार के सेलमैन कोई पूछता है, जब को मालूम है कि आप वो हाँ ही बोलने वाला है, फिर शर्ट कैसे लगते हैं भाई? अरे सर आप पे इतना जचता है ना सर, ये शर्ट तो मुझे लगता है आपके लिए ही बना है। हाँ सर, एंड आप गोरे भी है ना, सो तो मस्त लगता है। अभी वो काला आदमी को भी कई बार एक बार गलती से गोरे बोल दिया, क्योंकि वो झूठ बोल, सॉरी, सराहने की आदत पड़ गई है ना ऐसे। बापू તમે તો એવું નથી કરતા ને પાછા? एंडोर्समेंट चाहिए,
ना ना
endorsement. What I miss today, my dear friend, is a chat. आज मैं चाट मसाला इतना मिस कर रहा हूँ ना कि इतना मैं बॉम्बे का भी चाट मसाला नहीं मिस किया। आई मीन सच्ची बोलता हूँ, दिल की आवाज है। चाट के माध्यम से सर मेरा एक कनेक्टिंग माध्यम रहता है,
if
वो एक माध्यम।
time permits then we'll have question answer at the end.
या ये तो सब लखवा, ये तो करना ही है ना सर, वो तो व्यवहार है साहब, ये तो हाँ, क्वेश्चन आंसर तो व्यवहार है। ओके हाँ सर, अब मैंने
Sure.
समरी बनाई है। हाँ, अब मैंने समरी बनाई है इंड एस 8 की। हाँ, बहुत ही रोचक है। एक है रिक्लासिफिकेशन, रेक्टिफिकेशन ऑफ एन एरर, दूसरा है चेंज इन अकाउंटिंग पॉलिसी, एंड लास्ट इज अ चेंज इन एन एस्टिमेट। देखिए ये दोनों को मैंने एक्सट्रीम में रखा है, इसको एक्सट्रीम में, इसको एक्सट्रीम में, ईच के बीच में है चेंज ऑफ अकाउंटिंग पॉलिसी। दिस इज ऑलवेज अप्लाइड रेट्रोस्पेक्टिवली अनलेस इम्प्रैक्टिकेबल टू डू सो। सर आपको मालूम है ये कोविड में जो बारिश आया उसमें लोग खूब रिस्क लेके कहाँ गए पता है क्या? पुलिस स्टेशन में गए। हाँ, क्यों गए? हमारे अकाउंट्स का रिकॉर्ड सब खराब हो गया। बापू ऐसा है, एक बार रख के तो रखो, काम आएगा कभी ना कभी, है ना? इन डेज में काम आएगा था तो जीएसटी का असेसमेंट होगा तभी काम आएगा, यानी वो कर दिया सर, तो वो इम्प्रैक्टिकेबल इसे कहते हैं कि हमारा सब रिकॉर्ड फिनिश। ओके हाँ, so now when it comes to change in accounting policy, it is retrospectively applied if it is voluntarily applied, or if it is required by any other IFRS, then depends on the transitionary provision of that standard. सर आप बोलेंगे एक एग्जांपल दो ना सर, देता हूं, एक नहीं दो देता हूं। Ind AS 115, Ind AS 116. Ind AS 115 is introduced in 2018-19. It's applicable for the accounting period beginning after 1st of April 2018, and Ind AS 16 is applicable from accounting period beginning onward after 1st April 2019. Both these standards had the provision either you applied retrospectively, either you applied fully prospectively, or abridged of this. So it all depends on the mandate given in the transitionary provision of that particular standard. But मुझे मालूम है अभी हमारे बापू मीन्स अभी हमारे वो है ना मॉडरेटर अभी प्रश्न पूछेंगे मुझे, सर ट्रांजिशन प्रोविजन नहीं है तो क्या करेंगे? डोफा नहीं 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 है तो रेट्रोस्पेक्टिवली एप्लीकेशन करने का है। If there is no transaction provision, if there is no transition provision, ऐसा है तो कुछ नहीं करने का सर, मैं मेरे मन के हिसाब से करूं? No, you cannot do as per your whims and fancies, but you have to apply it retrospectively if there is no transition provision in that particular IFRS. But normally there is always transition provision. So ये है संक्षिप्त में about Ind AS 8। अब सर ये बहुत जरूरी है, यहाँ पे रेक्टिफिकेशन और एरर है तो यू हैव टू अप्लाई रेट्रोस्पेक्टिवली, एंड वंस यू अप्लाई रेट्रोस्पेक्टिवली यू हैव टू गिव द थर्ड बैलेंस शीट which is at the beginning of the earliest comparative period. But if it is an estimate, you have to apply it prospectively. तो सर भेद जानना बहुत अहम है. इन दोनों में डिफरेंस क्या है? एरर में क्या फर्क है और एस्टिमेट्स में क्या फर्क है? क्या आपने अपने हिसाब से किसको एरर कहेंगे? अपने हिसाब से ही किसको एस्टिमेट कहेंगे? नहीं बाबू छोड़ो ना, वो तो एरर मत बोलना, नहीं तो तुमको बैन बच जाएगी, सब पीछे का खोलना पड़ेगा. आपको एस्टिमेट करके निकाल दो ना, चलेगा. No, you cannot do so. What is the difference between error and estimate? चलिए कंप्यूटर जी हमारे मित्र को बताते हैं कि एरर और एस्टिमेट्स का भेद क्या है. एरर ये कहते कि आपके पास इंफॉर्मेशन अवेलेबल थी, इट वाज अवेलेबल, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट सर, इट वाज अवेलेबल व्हेन द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स वर अप्रूव्ड फॉर द इश्यू. अकाउंटिंग डेट की बात नहीं कर रहे, अप्रूवल की बात कर रहे. 31 मार्च 20 की बात नहीं कर रहे, जब ये अप्रूव हुए उस तारीख का जिक्र कर रहे. Could reasonably expected to have been obtained and taken into account in preparation and the presentation of financial statement. Agar, and secondly, this information you fail to use या तो misuse कर दी information की. Either you fail to use. साहब कितने WhatsApp ग्रुप में आपको information मिली थी चेंजेस की, है ना सर? बताइए सर. हर WhatsApp ग्रुप में फटक से अंदर ये चेंज आया, ये चेंज आया. तो जाहिर सी बात है कि this information was available to you. It was available on the ICAI website. It was available on the website of the MC also that you apply this date. But आपने इसको गौर नहीं किया, नजरअंदाज किया, and that's why it is known as an error. Information was available to you and this. अब सर कंप्यूटर जी ए भाई कोई ठीक खाती कि क्या किया? Okay. Now estimate में क्या है? Why estimated figures are revised? बापू तुम्हें छो ने?
हाँ छू साहेब.
मजा पड़े. एकला लागे सर. An estimate
जोड़े
may
एकला नहीं पड़वा दो.
ना. An estimate needs a revision if the changes occur in the circumstances on which is based as a result of new information or development or experience. तो सर एग्जांपल दीजिए. एग्जांपल चाहिए वो ECL का मॉडल है, बेड डेट्स का है. Then estimated useful life of an asset, it was estimated at 10 years, but now we new information that if you apply this technology, estimated useful life can be double. So the changes are not because आपने नजरअंदाज किया. Changes are not because you wrongly applied or failed to use or misuse. It's because of the new development. कुछ ऐसी घटनाएं नहीं बनी जिससे आपके मजबूर कर दिए कि मित्र इसमें change कर. Estimate of the pattern of consumer for the credit card redemption, correct, is an estimate. So ये changes बदलाव आ रहे हैं, नहीं कि आपने कुछ गलती नहीं की, but समय कहता है कि आपको change कीजिए. And that's the difference between an estimate and error. Okay, कंप्यूटर जी अगला स्लाइड. Okay, अगले स्लाइड पे एक एग्जांपल है. બાપુ આ સફેદ છે ને હારું જતું જ નથી, વચ્ચે વચ્ચે આવે મને સ્ટાઇલ બી ના આવડે છે ને તો મજા ના આવે. Examples of change in accounting policy regarding property plant equipment to revaluation model. This is a change in accounting policy. This is a change in accounting policy. And I wanted to ask the question, but मैं बहुत दुखी हूं कि मैं प्रश्न पूछ पाता हूं बट प्रश्न का उत्तर नहीं दे पाता. रियली कहता हूं, इतना दुखी हूं कि बात मत पूछो. बट छोड़िए, समय के अनुसार आपको जीना सीखना चाहिए. जीना यहाँ, मरना यहाँ, गो वेबिनार के सिवाय जाना कहाँ. जी चाहे मैं आपके पास दौड़ के आ जाऊं, गले लगा लूं, मगर मजबूर हूं दोस्त, मजबूर हूं दोस्त. जी हाँ दोस्तों, चेंज इन द बेसिस ऑफ मेजरमेंट, जैसे हमारे चिंतन साहब ने कहा था कि एक होता है इनिशियल मेजरमेंट, दूसरा होता है सब्सिक्वेंट मेजरमेंट. जी हाँ दोस्तों, तो ये बात है सब्सिक्वेंट मेजरमेंट बाय द कॉस्ट और रिवैल्यूएशन. एंड व्हेन अ कंपनी मूव्स फ्रॉम कॉस्ट टू रिवैल्यूएशन voluntarily खुद के हिसाब से and not as per the requirement by any other standard, तो हमने देखा कि if an accounting policy is changed voluntarily, it is to be applied prospectively. अभी हमारे वो मॉनिटर साहब, हमारे एडिटर साहब, हमारे एडमिन साहब, आप जवाब दो. चलो अभी तुम्हारी बहन बजाता हूँ कि चेंज इन वैल्यूएशन फ्रॉम कॉस्ट टू फंसी गया है माना क्या अभी गया फ्रॉम cost to revaluation is a change in accounting policy that is voluntarily સાહેબ તમે કેવી રીતે એપ્લાય કરશો વોલન્ટરીલી છે એટલે પ્રોસ્પેક્ટિવલી કરશો કે રેટ્રોસ્પેક્ટિવલી કરશો તમે જવાબ તમે મૂંઝાતા નહીં જવાબ ખોટો આપે તોય તમને માફ બધું કારણ કે તમે એક એડમિન બન્યા ને
retrospectively.
रेट्रोस्पेक्टिवली कंप्यूटर जी आप एडमिन साहब को उत्तर दीजिए क्या वो सही है या गलत है बिल्कुल गलत जवाब क्योंकि पैराग्राफ 17 एंड 18 ऑफ IAS 8 ने एक एक्सेप्शन लिया है एंड वो एक्सेप्शन ये है कि बापू खोटू ही लगा प्लीज रड़ो नहीं था सर प्लीज
ના
प्लीज नहीं रड़ो नहीं
ના
खोटू
સર
ही लगा
અત્યારે સ્ક્રીન ઉપર પીપી કોસ્ટ જોઈને ત્યારે પીપી કીટ યાદ આવે છે.
पीपी किट नहीं बराबर है सर ये पीपी किट याद आते एंड 5 स्टार दिखते हैं हवा में एकदम फट जाती है पर अभी नाउ द कॉस्ट टू रिवैल्यूएशन बापू खोटू ही लगा था भाई हाँ तुमने मारा समझा So cost to revaluation, even if it is applied voluntarily, it should not be applied retrospectively because there is an exception in Ind AS 8 in paragraph 17 and paragraph 18. सर ये जो मैंने आपको पूरा भाषण दिया ना ये भाषण पूरा पैराग्राफ 19 to 31 of IAS 8 में लिखा है 19 to 31 of IAS 8 में लिखा है तो IAS 17 कहते हैं कि when an entity change in accounting policy of cost to revaluation initial accounting policy for the first time it is to be treated as a revaluation pursuant to Ind AS 16 and Ind AS 38 and this standard will not be applied to it तो हम गए IAS 16 Ind AS 16 में करने के लिए तो वहां हमने देखा कि पैराग्राफ 40 ये कहते हैं कि रिवैल्यूएशन एज एट द डेट ऑफ रिवैल्यूएशन द रिवैल्यूएशन अमाउंट एज एट द डेट ऑफ रिवैल्यूएशन ही गिनना है दैट मींस मुड़ मुड़ के न देख मुड़ मुड़ के जी हाँ दोस्तों even if it is a voluntarily applied you should not apply it retrospectively the reason being paragraph 17 and 18 of Ind AS 8 and paragraph 40 of Ind AS 16 so please don't make this mistake bound to say it is a voluntary bound to say it is a change in accounting policy and that too voluntarily don't apply it retrospectively apply it prospectively only all right inventory cost formula 2 FIFO is always a weighted 2 weighted average is a change in accounting policy classification of government grant ये तो presentation की बात है मेरे ख्याल से if I'm not mistaken paragraph 29 of IAS 20 paragraph 29 of Ind AS 20 says that government grant can be presented two ways either receipt side पे दिखाइए और expenses में कुछ expense दिखाए related to that grant for example मैंने 10 लाख खर्च किए and I get a grant of about 4 lakhs rupees so I can present it like this 10 lakhs rupees expenses on the expense side and 4 lakhs rupees grant on the income side this is one way second is 10 lakhs expense minus 4 lakhs outside 6 lakhs admin said this is permitted नहीं तो तमें हमने पाचा केसो कि अभी तो offset का आपने भाषण दिया था sir so this is permitted okay so this is a change in presentation this is change in presentation my dear सब अब 19-20 में करते हैं change I mean 19-20 change नहीं 19-20 फाइनेंशियल ईयर में चेंज करते हैं तो यही चेंजेस आपको करना है 18-19 में भी हाँ you have to make changes in 89 as well and not just in 1920 the reason being you have done reclassification and as a result of that you need to restate the comparative but here there's no need to give the third balance sheet because this reclassification impacts only the immediate preceding financial year so these are कुछ examples in this 8K okay sir okay बापू आ क्या ध्यान जरूर है यार हाँ okay हाँ now the quiz an entity was only trading in the computer equipment business karte train buying and selling so it was classified recognizing the revenue from the sale of goods revenue from sale of goods It means forays, it means entry into the software segment, development of services, and as a result, and there is a change in the measurement of the revenue as a percentage of completion method. So because क्या है कि at a point in time or over a period of time. So दो मसले है, paragraph 35 A, B and C of Ind AS 115 के जरिए आप ये अकाउंटिंग ट्रीट कर सकते हैं. If any of the conditions is met of 115, an entity may apply over time. अभी ऐसा भी है, वो Ind AS वाले भी ऐसी लैंग्वेज यूज करते हैं ना. I mean IFRS over time is not over time. Actually real English should be over period of time. Over time એટલે આપણને સાહેબ પેલા 6 પછીનો જ યાદ આવે ને સાહેબ, હે ને? So it should be recognized over a period of time. Over a period of time. खबर नहीं वो खा गए थे. तो yes,
Right.
this is change in accounting. This is not a change in accounting policy because it is not it is a new business. It is a new business. It is not an old business which was simply twisted, but totally a new line of business. सर एक और भी बात बता दूं आपको कि सब्सिडरी को कंपल्सरीली कंसोलिडेट करना है. ये प्रावधान है इन AS 110. मगर कुछ फॉरेन की कंपनीज ने 95 to 97 कंपनीज को कंसोलिडेट नहीं किए, बावजूद उससे कि वो एग्जेम्पशन में नहीं कवर होती. 95 to 97 companies were not consolidated despite they are not being covered in the exemption. And जब सर मैं पढ़ा ना, तो पहले तो I was started dancing, पर फिर मैंने पढ़ा कि नहीं, वो मैं डांस ज्यादा नहीं कर पाया. क्योंकि जब मैंने उसका रीजन देखा, तब उसमें लिखा था कि this company is being immaterial, the entity has not applied the accounting policy of consolidation. तो जब ये सब्सिडरीज में कुछ सब्सिडरीज में से कुछ सब्सिडरीज अगर सब्सटेंशियल हो जाए, मटेरियल हो जाए, तब उसको वो कंसोलिडेट करेंगे, करना पड़ेगा. तो उससे आप चेंज इन अकाउंटिंग पॉलिसी नहीं कर सकते. आप समझे मेरी बात? अर्लियर यू हैड नॉट अप्लाइड राइटली द कंसोलिडेशन अकाउंटिंग, इन द सेंस कि आपने कंसोल नहीं किया उसको, बराबर है सर? तो but now you have to apply, but now those subsidies had become the material substantial. तब आपने उसको कंसोलिडेशन करना स्टार्ट कर दिया. ए बापू, आवाज मेरा बराबर आता है ना? ऑडियो क्लियर है ना?
Yes, clear है.
एंड वीडियो? हाँ,
Video is also clear.
ये ज्यादा रिफ्लेक्शन नहीं आता है ना? ओके ओके सर.
नहीं परफेक्ट दिखाई दे रहा है.
तो उससे कहते that is not a change in accounting policy because an item which was immaterial has become material and you apply accounting policy is not a change in accounting policy, mind you well. All right. Now owner occupied property has now become a investment property. Correct sir? It is a change in accounting policy, but it has to be applied prospectively. Correct sir? To measure the equity instrument from fair value through profit and loss account to fair value to OCI, again is a change in accounting policy, but this policy has to be applied retrospectively. Entity changes the functional currency voluntarily. Should it apply prospectively or retrospectively? अरे बापू, आपने सब पार्टिसिपेंट्स का मोड़ा बंद कर दे दिया है ना. आई मीन सॉरी, जबान बंद कर दी तो मुझे मजा नहीं आती, बट ठीक है, चलता है सब. Entity changes the functional currency voluntarily, and that is should it apply prospectively or retrospectively. जी हाँ दोस्तों, यहाँ भी Ind AS 21 ने explicitly mention किया है कि ऐसे हादसों में इसे prospectively ही गिना जाएगा. So हाँ, prospectively એટલે ભવિષ્યમાં પીટલા नहीं देखने का. An item which was considered immaterial has now become considered material and accounting policy is applied. जी हाँ दोस्तों, वो यही एग्जांपल है जिसका मैंने जिक्र किया आपको कि बेयर GM BAYAR स्पेस GmbH जर्मन बेस्ड कंपनी में आपको ये डिस्क्लोजर मिलेगा कि about more than 90 companies they had not considered for the consideration. So this is again an example, an item which was immaterial but now becoming the material. Okay sir? Okay sir, इसका तो हमें, ये तो हमारी गीता है सर, डिवीजन 2 शेड्यूल 3 ऑफ द कंपनीज एक्ट आपको रट्टा मार देना चाहिए सर, बिल्कुल सही बात, बिकॉज दैट इंडिकेट्स हाउ यू शुड डू दैट। सर एक बात बताऊं आपको बापू, एक पर्सनल बात कहूं, हाँ
बोलो ना सर।
वो मजानी बात है सर, एकदम मजे की बात है दोस्तों। मैं सीए भी हूं और सीपीए भी हूं, सीपीए फ्रॉम यूएसए, सर्टिफाइड पब्लिक अकाउंटेंट। हमारे चिंतन भाई भी
Yes.
सीपीए, हाँ।
हम्म,
तो मैं तो मेंबर हूं उसका, सीपीए का, अमेरिकन एआईसीपी, अमेरिकन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ सर्टिफाइड पब्लिक अकाउंटेंट। सर वहां से मुझे स्टैंडर्ड के बिसाइड्स पेइंग अ ह्यूज annual membership fees, even if I want to buy, even if I want to have access to the accounting standard, boss, I have to shell out $40 or $50. Forget about ये guidance note, guidance note, educational material, ITHG, free webinar। आप बोलेंगे ना तो के are you getting mad here? You want all free of charge? You are mad or what? अरे मेरे को बाप भाई मारा तू आओ इंडिया में, तने खबर पड़े मैड कोने कहेवाय ने बाप कोने कहेवाय। हाँ, हमारे इंस्टीट्यूट देखो सब फ्री ऑफ चार्ज में देती है, एवरीथिंग फ्री ऑफ चार्ज सर। सो वी मस्ट सैल्यूट अवर आईसीआई, वी मस्ट सैल्यूट अवर आईसीआई। सर કેટલા वेबिनार फ्री में करने का, हाँ? कितना वेबिनार फ्री में ना, यूट्यूब पे तो देखो तो लगता है कि आईसीआई के वेबिनार ही ज्यादा हो गया। अभी यूट्यूब का नाम आईसीआई यूट्यूब करना चाहिए। हाँ, इतने वेबिनार, हाँ, बोर बोर के वेबिनार दुआड़ा करने का। सो द
yes.
पॉइंट इज गाइडेंस नोट, देन પછી શું આ બાપુ टेक्निकल गाइडेंस, हर चीज पे निकलते हैं। अरे अकाउंटिंग की बात छोड़ो, जीएसटी में आया तो मंडी पड़े, ये जीएसटी पे करना की कंपनी एक पर, हेलो एक कंपनी एक पर करी है। So institute is not confining itself to accounts and auditing only, it is really, it is crossing the boundaries of accounting and auditing standards, but it is helping us। गाइडेंस नोट, वो ऑडिट रिपोर्ट के लिए देखो या टीडीएस के लिए देखो, हर सेट पे, राइट सर। सीएसआर तक उन्होंने कर दिया है ना सर।
Yes, sir.
So
Hmm.
our institute is doing so much for us। सिर्फ उसकी कदर करो, कदर कैसे करो? by reading it, that's it। इंस्टीट्यूट ऐसे नहीं कहते कि आप
Yes.
हमारी हमारी स्तुति करो और आरती करो कि जयदेव जयदेव, ऐसा मत करो, बट एटलीस्ट वो कम से कम पढ़ो सर। हाँ, वो पढ़ो सर प्लीज, यू मस्ट रीड दिस सर। ये तो जिस पे गुजरती उसको मालूम है कि $2,500 फी देने के बाद भी पैसा एक चीज के लिए पैसा देते सर। ठीक है यार, तो सर वेरी तो ए भाई गाड़ी આવી ગઈ, હલે વાહ બાપू, हेलो તમારા करने का આવી ગયો આપણો Ind AS 7। हाँ सर,
Yes.
इसमें सब अभी मैं ज्यादा बताऊं का तो आपकी और मेरी दोनों को इज्जत का सवाल है, मगर एक बात बता दूं सर आपको, एक बात फिर भी बताना चाहता हूं कि इसमें एक बला नहीं आई है, और वो बलाई है 17-18 के बाद। एंड ये है, हाँ सर, ये स्टेटमेंट उन्होंने नया मांगा है, बिकॉज क्या है कि कुछ ना कुछ मांगते ही रहते सर। ये डिस्क्लोजर एज रिक्वायर्ड बाय Ind AS 7 reconciliation of liabilities arising from financial liabilities। सर ये आपको कंपेरेटिव स्टेटमेंट भी देने हैं। ये बैलेंस शीट है मार्च 2018 की, तो उसमें 18 का भी पूरा विवरण दिया है एंड पूरा विवरण से। तो हियर यू हैव टू गिव द डिटेल्स एज टू द शॉर्ट टर्म एंड लॉन्ग टर्म की मूवमेंट, फाइनेंशियल लैब एक्टिविटीज की कहां से है, स्पेशली दी liability side, not the asset side, not the asset side। Huh? So this is one additional requirement as compared to our पुराने AS में है, उसके तहत तो ये ध्यान रखिएगा सर, ये आपको देना है। Overdraft is considered as a part of, if it is a part and parcel of the cash management system, it is to be a part of the cash and cash equivalent। That means your cash and cash equivalent could be negative। Now, very interesting, if a parent loses the control of a subsidiary, then parents will reflect the proceeds of this this sale of subsidiary in the statement of cash flow as investing activity। That means if you are holding 60% share in a company, if you are holding a 60% share in a company, and then you sold it 20%, and then you lose control, तो आपने कंट्रोल लॉस कर दिया, तो इट इज नॉट it is not its subsidiary anymore. So in that case, this cash flow is to be classified as investing activities. But if you do not lose control, if you've got 60% and then you sell 5%, you're not losing, then it is to be shown as a financing activities only. Now when it comes to the presentation of the now again Ind AS 116 ये lease की बात करते हैं. So in this case, in a statement of cash flow, the lessee shall classify the cash payment for the principal payment as the financing activities. Cash payment for interest portion will be shown as a operating activities, and short-term lease again will be shown as a operating activity. So ये था about Ind AS 17, Ind AS 116, which refers to the now interest and dividend paid, we say it is financing or investing activities, but now the Ind AS or IAS 7 say that it may be classified as operating activity, but there is going to be change in the IAS 7, and this change is pursuant to the changes which is at par with the Ind AS 7. Okay, now they also say that you cannot show interest paid and interest and dividend received as a financing as an operating activity, except for the banking companies. But even for the other thing, they have to show as a investing, financing, and the investing activities respectively. Bapu, oh, पढ़ गया पढ़ Now, the change which is different from the earlier AS is the date of the approval of the financial statements. You have to write the date. I have seen one thing, and I don't understand why the Indian auditors and Indian management is shy of writing the date of approval of the financial statement. Bapu, तुम चाय पियो છો?
नहीं
Hello. अब चाय पीते ऐसे आवाज आ रही है, you know?
आप यूएन
चाय पिया लो. आप लोगों को जलसा है, आप कुछ भी कर सकते हैं. मैं तो यार sorry guys. So but I have seen that Indian management, Indian companies, they do not show, they do not present, they do not disclose the date of approval at the beginning. They always show at the last छल्ले last में item number 27 28 में ऐसा लिख देते हैं, the accounts were approved on so that. Globally, if you read the global balance sheet or the financial statement, you find it immediately after the basis of the financial statements preparation. So I think that's the most logistic way of doing it. And then we'll see the adjusting event. There's nothing great. It's almost same, except the dividend. The proposed dividend is not considered as an adjusting event anymore. And we now disclose. Now, वो changes तो हमारे AS में भी हो चुके हैं. Sir, AS की जब बात करता हूँ, जिक्र करता हूँ, तो एक बार बता दूं कि our present AS are undergoing a big time change revamp. देखिए मिसाल के तौर पे AS 10 जो नया अवतार है, that is a mixer of erstwhile AS 6 and AS 10, is just on the line of the Ind AS 16. Absolutely verbatim copy paste, but there's nothing wrong about it because समय के अनुसार अब पूरी दुनिया जब एक ही ढांचे में चल रही है, तो हमें भी इसी दिशा में प्रयाण करना होगा. And we have to consider. So while you're learning Ind AS, while you're learning the refresher course of Ind AS, I am happy for you that जब ये Indian existing standards, non-Ind AS standards change होंगे, whenever the non-Ind AS standards are going to be changed, you will be a super duper hero of those standards. The reason being, those new standards are going to be derivatives of the Ind AS. वो Ind AS का diluted version होंगे. जैसे मैंने कहा कि Ind AS 20, 30, 31 and 32, these three Ind AS are not existing anymore since November 2016. There's a vacuum for the standards. तो क्या करेंगे? अब नए स्टैंडर्ड आ रहे, शायद उसका नाम हो सकता है AS 109 A, AS 109 B and AS 109 C. They are all dependent on Ind AS 32, Ind AS 109 and Ind AS 107. जी हाँ, don't worry. There will be a diluted version of these three standards. So you're going to be a master blaster of this. And these are the various events, sir. Nothing great about it. But this event, adjusting event, is going to be helpful for the COVID-19 when it comes to the measurement of the inventory, that is as there is a lesser at lower of cost or the net realizable value, the amount for which it has generated the income, it has been sold in the subsequent event, has played a role in measurement of the inventory as on 31st March 2020. बट सर 31st मार्च 2020 में इतना वो रक्षक नहीं होनी चाहिए. The reason being there was only a difference of about a matter of about 7 days maximum, because 25th March was the date when there was a total India Bandh, and thereafter the whole lockdown procedure has started. So not to worry about it, but you have to be very careful about adjusting and non-adjusting event. सर ये बहुत मायने रखते हैं, क्योंकि non-adjusting event में जो है a major business combination after the बापू तुम्हें चाय पीने अभी क्या बर्तन साफ करते हैं क्या? हाँ बापू आवाज किसकी आ रही है सब? हाँ
Yes.
हाँ चाय पी लिया ना आपने? ओके सर. सो ये है ना, इट इज रिसेंटली हैपन इन केस ऑफ अ कंपनी कि उनकी दुविधा ये थी कि ये इसे कैसी ट्रीटमेंट दी जाए. अब देखिए वो कंपनी की एजीएम बोर्ड मीटिंग थी अभी 31st जुलाई से पहले. I think the date which was extended was till 31st July, right, for the submission of the financial statements, upload of the financial statements of the listed company. And तकरीबन 20 जुलाई को ये उन्होंने बोर्ड में अप्रूव किए थे, एंड उस दौरान सब बात चल रही थी. अब देखिए बोर्ड में अप्रूवल हो गया था 15 जुलाई को, एंड एजीएम इज समवेयर इन अगस्त. तो ये पूछ रहे हैं कि सर अभी ये बिजनेस कॉम्बिनेशन का हमें जिक्र करना चाहिए कि नहीं. ऐसे जिक्र कहाँ करेंगे? तो कि नहीं फाइनल प्रिंट आउट में जा रहे हैं. ऐसे नो प्रिंट आउट नहीं हुआ, बट इन प्रिंसिपल यू हैव एक्सेप्टेड द अकाउंट्स ऑन 15th of July. So after that you are not supposed to make any changes, because the subsequent event की अवधि है, सीमा रेखा है, वो है the date when the accounts are approved for the issue. चाहे कितना भी बड़ा इवेंट क्यों न हो, अखबार में आए, मीडिया में आए, एनबीसीबी पे आए, सीबी फाइनेंस में आए, सीएनबीसी पे आए, हर जगह पे आए, मगर फिर भी आप उससे इसका जिक्र कहीं नहीं करेंगे. डायरेक्टर्स रिपोर्ट में अवश्य हो सकता है as per the Companies Act, perhaps you may have to do that, but definitely not in the accounting standard, definitely not in the notes to the accounts. Okay sir, non-adjusting event, that's fine. Yes, एक बात जरूर ध्यान रखें कि when you issue any bonus share, so bonus share में सर आपको ध्यान रखना है कि it's an adjusting event, and you to dividend का यहाँ पे आ गया. एक बड़ा चेन है यहाँ पे. This is a very big change in case of, इसकी जड़ है IS1 में, कि in case of a breach of a material provision regarding the long-term loans, तो वो कहते हैं कि if the understanding in our language पतावट, दूसरी चीज मांडवड़ी, पतावट मांडवड़ी और adjustment or understanding is between the reporting date and the date when the accounts are approved for issue, it is an adjusting event. So even if the creditor has extended the time and restored the original condition, you can still continue to classify as per the old condition of current and non-current. But as far as IS 10 is concerned, it says that it is a non-adjusting event. That means if you have defaulted in a loan before the year end, and as a result of which the loan becomes payable immediately, then बावजूद से or regardless of or notwithstanding that it was to be classified in current and non-current, and was it for 10 years, 1 year payable, regardless of all these, you have supposed to classify this loan into the current liability only. Why? Because the adjustment or the understanding or the waiver has not taken place before the year end, before the end of the reporting period. It has taken place, but if it takes place, as far as India is concerned, between the reporting date and the date when the accounts are approved for the issue, then it is still an adjusting event, and then we can still consider classify into current and non-current as per the terms and conditions. So now, friends, any questions?
Yes, sir. There are
ये क्वेश्चन के बाद में मैं कहूंगा
there are some questions asked by the
बट आप उनकी आवाज को बुलंद कीजिए, उनकी आवाज को बुलंद कीजिए। अगर उनको वीडियो पे लाएंगे तो और भी मजा आ जाएंगे सर।
सर वो तो नहीं ला सकते, लेकिन मैं खुद वीडियो पे जाता हूँ।
अरे बापू आप तो आओ यार, कोई तो दिखने को मिलेगा यार।
नहीं सर, मैं आ गया अभी।
आजा रे आसरा। अरे बापू एक सवाल है सर, इन केस ऑफ अ रीस्टेटमेंट ऑफ एन आइटम ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट, इफ द रीस्टेटमेंट पर्टेन्स टू द इमीडिएट प्रोसीडिंग ईयर, then is it necessary to provide a third? अरे बापू in that case मनोज साहू साहब का ये प्रश्न है। मनोज साहू जी नमस्कार जी, आपका ये प्रोग्राम में स्वागत है। प्रश्न पूछने के लिए आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। बहुत उचित प्रश्न है, बहुत ही अच्छा प्रश्न है। इन्होंने ये प्रश्न पूछा है, आई एम रीडिंग वंस अगेन। In case of restatement of an item of the financial statement, if the restatement pertains to the immediately preceding year, that is comparative, so is it necessary to provide third balance sheet? Sir, his third balance sheet, I am telling you in Gujarati, મારી મછલીને લાવવાની જરૂર નથી. Not necessarily you have to create the third balance sheet only. Now, for example, instead of finding an error for the pertaining to the years beyond the comparative years, that means 19-20 financial की हम बात कर रहे हैं, 18-19 is my comparative, and आपने ये mistake निकाली 18-19 financial year के लिए ही, that means it is not for 17-18, it is not for 16-17, it is neither for 15-16 and the preceding years. So in that case, my dear friend, you need to give the comparative only for immediate preceding year. In other words, third balance sheet की आवश्यकता नहीं है, क्योंकि वहां उसकी गुंजाइश ही नहीं है, उसकी जरूरत ही नहीं है। ओके सर, ये मनोज साहू भाई आप खुश हुए? मोगा मो तो खुश हो गया। हाँ भाई मनोज साहू भाई, आप वो एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को बोल दो ना कि मैं खुश हो गया। हाँ भाई, आर यू हैप्पी मनोज? यू गॉट आंसर दिया? एडमिन साहब, ओ एडमिन साहब,
जैकिन बोल क्वेश्चन। जैकिन
जैकिन साहब, अगर आप नहीं बोलेंगे ना, अगर आप नहीं बोलेंगे ना, तो फिर मैं आपको ये गाना सुनाऊंगा। जैकिन भाई, खोल दो कुछ न बोलो, कोई गीत गाओ।
यगनेश भाई,
हाँ
हाँ, जो अबे हमारे आई थिंक फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन आ रही है, आई डोंट नो। अच्छा ओके, रेशनल, व्हाट इज रेशनल बिहाइंड इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ ओसीआई? क्वेश्चन पूछो जो।
अच्छा, ये चिंतन भाई बोलो सो।
यस यस,
चिंतन भाई, हाँ चिंतन भाई, ओके, बहुत ही अच्छा प्रश्न पूछा। ये ओसीआई, ये as I explained you, Chintan bhai, were you there in my deliberation?
नहीं यगनेश भाई, આ ક્વેશ્ચન છે ને ઓલરેડી આવ્યો છે. I am not asking question. Somebody has asked question. Jaikin is facing some issue, so I'm deliberating the question.
No issue, no issue. See, my only question is that were you also listening to my deliberation or no? Because then I have to say something else. No. Okay. During my deliberation, I have mentioned that the concept of OCI is not a new concept. The concept of OCI is not a new concept. It is only the new presentational issue. It is only a new presentational issue because I have given the example that it is not a new concept for us. We had already been example of the treatment of the revaluation of property, plant, equipment under the AS. We were crediting already in the reserves. Chintan bhai, tami bhi jara sahayog aapjo, huh? We were already crediting the we were already crediting the revaluation reserve in the equity, and we were not crediting into the profit and loss account. We were also crediting the foreign currency translation reserve in the equity reserve, and we were not crediting it to the profit and loss account. So crediting certain type of increment, crediting the enhancement of the assets, which in turn enhances the equity, was already there under the pre-Ind AS accounting standard of India also. We were crediting not in P&L account but in the equity. But now your question is that ये OCI की बला क्यों आई? OCI क्यों आए? It is nothing but it is an income, but it is not actually. If you go to see the analyze OCI items, they are not the real income. They are not real income, correct? So, but ચિંતન ભાઈ એક જ 2 મિનિટ મને આપશો સાહેબ થોડું ડિટેલમાં જવા માટે
પ્લીઝ ના ચોક્કસ આપણે objective is
ના
to
ના
solve all the questions
તો ધુમાડા કાઢ નાખું છું સાહેબ ઉભા રહો એ સવાલનો ઓકે if you read the definition of income in the framework जिसका जिक्र चिंतन भाई ने किया था, an income is one which is the inflow of income during the flow of resources during an accounting period, which or increase in assets which ultimately increases your equity. तो revaluation वो ढांचा में आता है कि which is increasing the assets and which ultimately enhances the equity. But क्या आप उसे income कहेंगे? नहीं. So now I am being a ultra technical person जो आप शायद आप बोलेंगे पका देते हम. There is a concept of financial maintenance of capital. There is a concept of financial maintenance of capital, and इसके तहत evaluation of property, plant, equipment is not to be recognized in income, but it is to recognize in equity. Yes. So, but basically it's the definition of the income. तो इनकम है मगर फिर भी तो इनकम नहीं है. अब यहाँ पे मैं आपको एक अकाउंटिंग की शायरी दिखाता हूँ. जालिम तो इनकम है फिर भी इनकम नहीं है. जालिम तो इनकम है फिर भी इनकम नहीं है, मगर दिल है कि मानता नहीं. तो तुझे तसल्ली देने के लिए मैं तुझे नाम दे रहा हूँ अदर कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इनकम. करेक्ट सर? तो तुझे अदर कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इनकम का नाम दिया. एंड बॉस माय फ्रेंड्स, you must have realized that three times I mentioned to you that EPS is calculated neither on OCI nor on TCI, but it is calculated only on the profit after tax. This indicates what? Other incomes are not your real income. Conceptually, EPS, Chintan bhai, there are sats puraujo. EPS is conceptually calculated. Why only on PAT and not in OCI or not in TCI? Because ये इनकम नहीं है. जालिम तो इनकम है मगर तू सही मायने में इनकम नहीं है, तो सिर्फ अदर कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इनकम है. Now the idea of other comprehensive income is to make the reader realize जो इक्विटी में जमा होते हैं ना अमाउंट, वो किस जरिए आते हैं, किस चीज के लिए आते हैं, on account of what there is an increase in the equity. So just to demonstrate the people, just to demonstrate the reader, and to make it more conspicuous, they have to make it more explicit, they have brought the concept of the other comprehensive income. वास्तव में income है नहीं.
Yes, I think what Yagnesh has mentioned perfectly. Basically, this is something which is not exactly profit and loss. So when you look at the definition of the other comprehensive income, it says items of income or expenditure that is not part of profit and loss. So that is the reason for the purpose of consideration of these things, you have to ignore it. And they want to keep it as a part of its income expenditure, so they want to keep it in somewhere in income statement, but not in profit and loss statement. So they create a separate particular part B. That's why it's a part B is a OCI. So that is the main rationale behind this. Jakin, you want to ask one more question or?
Yes, there is one more question. What is the difference between separate financial statements and standalone financial statements?
Wow.
Yes, sir.
हाँ बापू क्या कहता था मैं यार ये हमको छोड़ के
ना टेक्निकल फॉल्ट માં ખબર નથી પડતી.
આ યાર અહીંયા ખાલી એક બટન દબાય ત્યાં બીજું ઊભું થાય ને ઊભું થાય. Anyway, very good question. If a parent present a financial statement in which investment is not accounted by using the equity method, then it is a separate financial statement. That means a parent, when it does not prepare a financial statement and wherein the income are accounted using the equity method or for the JVs and associates, and when it is known as a separate financial statement. But if एक parent हो अरे parent ना हो बापू एकली एक company है, then is a standalone financial statement. That means if I don't have a subsidiary, and then is a standalone financial statement. If I have a subsidiary and if I don't consolidate them, it is a separate financial statements.
Okay. One more question. For diluted EPS working, market prices for which period are to be considered?
just 1 second. Here I want to bring your attention that a company does not have a subsidiary, but it has associates and JVs. As per the Ind AS, it is supposed to prepare the supposed to apply the equity method for these two investments. So they have used this word. Then an entity which does not have a subsidiary, but it has an associates and JVs, and account for this investment using the equity method, this statement may be called consolidated financial statements. आज तक ISAB कतरा रही है clearly बोलने के लिए कि ये consolidated financial statements है. This language is written in Ind AS 28 पढ़ेंगे गौर से तो कहीं पे कोई पैराग्राफ में इसका जिक्र किया गया है. Now, sir, please repeat your question. In case of diluted earning per share. Hello.
For diluted EPS working, yes. For diluted EPS working, market prices for which period are to be considered?
Sir, for diluted EPS, what is to be required is the on the numerator, the profit available attributable to the equity holder owners as adjusted by the interest which has been forgiven, which interest which you are not going to pay, and that is divided by the enhanced number of equity number of shares. So I don't understand where is the question of market price there. Chintan bhai?
No, I think market price may not be I think I don't know. The question may be asked with some other objective, but we may not be able to get the exact question. So we can skip right away and we can go to the next question.
Next question is, can we offset the amount of which is being written off of trade receivable and payable, or need to show separately as other income and other expense?
They have to be shown as other expenses of their income.
Okay.
They cannot be offsetted. I gave the same example from of a chartered accountant. I don't want to give the name of the city, but that he has done that. And in fact, that example pertains to the same thing. Same things.
Okay. Now, next question. If effect remains for both reclassification and non-reclassification.
Sorry, please. Huh?
Sorry,
sir.
For both.
Yeah, I think its question is that if effect remains same for both reclassification and non-reclassification, then why to give such effect?
Sir,
I think effect is not same.
No.
Yeah,
sir, for the reclassification adjustment, the impact is on the profit and loss. For the non-reclassification, okay, let me visit that site to you, sir. And I have explained it very clearly, but I'm revisiting it once again. Where is the statement? Yes. As far as reclassification adjustment is concerned, it impacts the earning per share. In other words, it impacts the profit and loss, but it does not impact the retained earning. It does not impact the retained earning in both the cases, whether it is a reclassification or non-reclassification. So I would put it that for reclassification adjustment, the impact is on the profit, impact is on the earning per share. Here, there is no impact on the profit because it is not routed via profit and loss account. Here, again, there is no impact on the EPS because it is not routed through profit and loss account, but ultimately it settles in the retained earnings. So the retained earning in both the cases are going to be same. In reclassification, profit is affected. In non-reclassification, profit is not affected. So this is the requirement of the standard. And this is required as per the various standards. Like for example, Ind AS 16 says it very clearly that when and how much to reclassify to profit to retain earning. At the same time, OCI is concerned that that instrument is reclassifiable adjustment an equity instrument is not a reclassified adjustment. I'll share something personally with you that I personally don't agree with the non-reclassification adjustment, of the equity instrument classified as a fair value through CI, because ultimately your realized profit has to go somewhere in the income statement. The realized profit, up to unrealized stage, you find you keep it equity, no question. Even income tax is not taxing the fair value changes as an income. But when it comes to the realization, they have to be, in my opinion, to be treated as a part of the earned income which is realized, and it should have been classified to profit loss account. In Singapore and in Dubai, many companies have done the misuse of this standard, that knowing they know that I'm going to make losses in the investment in subsidiaries, so they classify immediately and at the outset only at FET OCI, because they know that I know that my retained earnings is going to be eroded, but my EPS is going to be intact, which is not digestible. Chintan bhai?
Yes,
Hello.
sir. There is one more question.
Yes, I think yeah, Yagnesh, you're right. Basically, if we look at one line change on this aspect, if it is reclassification, it is going to affect PL. If it is not reclassification, it is not going to affect PL. Ultimately, the return earning is going to be same. But because PL is very important, part A is very important, as Yagnesh mentioned clearly, that EPS, for EPS, it is a part A. It is not part B. So any change, basically, if you talk about any change, that change, if it is not coming to PL, actually the companies or investors are not able to get impact on P&L account.
Yes.
So
Yes.
without reclassification is something which is not going to come on face. So it is a kind of negative thing for a company in case of a huge profit in the future. So this is both very important change as far as OCI is concerned. We'll take Jackie, we'll take later fast because I know there's a time is short, and Jackie, please go ahead.
While preparing for financial 1920, it is observed there was an error relating to Schedule 56. What should be done? Instead, the amount of retained earning as on 1/4/2018 suffice.
While preparing the financial statements for financial year 1920, what happened? Because you're not audible clearly.
Yes.
While preparing the financial,
just a minute. Yagnesh bhai, I will just take it ahead very fast. Yeah. So basically, the question is that preparing financials for 1920, and error was pertaining to year 15-16. So question is, what should be done? So he is again suggesting that can we restate the amount of retained earning on 1st April 18? So I think answer is right. 1920 current previous year 18-19, 1st April 18 opening retained earning, that you will restate. However, you would ensure that you would prepare a third balance sheet. Third balance sheet you would prepare for correction of error.
Yeah. And 1920, 18-19, you need to restate. 18-19 restate, and 1920 there is no question of restatement. And precisely because of this, there is no concept of prior period error or prior period items in IFRS, because you're restating it. You're stating as if there was no error.
While calculating EVA.
Calculating what? EVK?
No, there was an error, and that's EVA. While calculating EVA, we will not be considering OCI in equity statement, right? Or not?
What is EVA?
I think EVA stands for economic value added. It may be the economic consideration, economic value added, EVA seems to be there.
While considering EVA, you are not considering OCI, but you are considering only the profit. Honestly, I am not getting the question very clearly, sir. Chintan, તમને ખ્યાલ આવ્યો શું કે આપણને કે શું પૂછે છે? Is it for some analysis?
He's asking questions for calculation of EVA. His question is, for calculation of EVA, whether we to consider OCI or not. So I think we need to look at the formula of EVA. I search on Google formula of EVA. It says EVA is equal to NOPAT, no PAT, minus WACC into TA minus CL. So I think it is talking about NOPAT. NOPAT is what that we need to look at.
Sir, in that case, in my opinion, OCI should be ignored then. In my opinion, OCI should be ignored because they talk about the PAT, then it should be only profit after the tax.
Yes, I think NO must be non-operating. NO must be okay. The word is PAT, so I think if it is word is PAT, then it should
It's
be
PAT.
ignored. OCI should be ignored.
I think this question is from the valuer student this time. This
Right.
question is valuation course, and for that it's only PAT, not OCI.
What if the previous year adjustment for which restatement of FS is required cannot be ascertained to single financial year?
Sir, if it is impracticable to do so, you can always plead an excuse that I didn't get the information about those years, so I'm applying it from the year from which I'm getting the information. For example, the error pertains to 15, 16, 17, 18, but you say that I don't have information about 15 and 16, and I'm applying only from 16 and 17. Or if you can always say that even after making the superhuman efforts, I'm not been able to retrieve my data, so you then apply it prospectively. This is what standard is said if it is impracticable to do so, but then you have to really prove it and convince your auditor before you convince others.
Fair value less derived value of shares will give dilution effect in EPS. In this, fair value of listed shares are price of exchange with largest traded value, but period of which price is to be taken.
In that case, the comparative period. So, actually, sir, you are talking about the options in case of the EPS. This has got nothing to do with my
Yes.
standards, of course. But I think the gentleman is talking about the options and all kind of thing. Can you bring it on the line, please? Chintan bhai, our question is about the options under the EPS method. Options converted into the shares. I think this question is about that. Can you ask the one who asked the question to you? Chintan bhai?
Let that person again ask the question.
Yeah.
Till time we take the next question.
Okay.
Why some items are reclassifiable and some items are not reclassifiable? What is the logic?
See, logic per se is that, in fact, as far as first logic is concerned, I'm not agreeing with the ISAB also, that as far as the FVT OCI is concerned of the equity shares, it should be classified as it should be a non-classified adjustment. I don't agree with that, but sometimes it say that, you know, your income should not be, see, when take the example of the revaluation of property, plant, equipment. When you revalue the property, plant, equipment, you are depreciating the asset. You are depreciating the asset on the revalued amount. Increase in devaluation is not credited to profit and loss account, quite rightly so, but it is credited to equity. But when you depreciate the amount, and again, if you reclassify this back to the reclassify this back to the profit and loss account, you're diluting the impact of the revaluation. Because ideally, if you have revalued in principle, that you must means honestly depreciate the asset only on the revalued amount, correct, and not on the original amount. So by classifying this depreciation, by reclassifying this extra depreciation back to profit and loss account in the very same year, what you are trying to do is that on the one hand you increase your equity, on the one hand you increase the asset, and in the statement of your financial asset you say my assets are at a larger amount, but when it comes to the profit, you're diluting the impact of this additional depreciation by crediting it to profit and loss account had it been a reclassifiable adjustment. So this is one logic which I can see for the property, plant, equipment and Ind AS 38. Rest other are the rest other thing is the FPT OCI, and this the one major item which I see and which I don't agree with them, and which भले IFRS ने कहा है, but IFRS has changed many things in past. So I don't agree with one change about the FPT OCI of the equity instrument, because if the company has realized the money by selling it, by derecognizing it, and when the profit is realized, it should definitely be credited in the profit and loss account.
Okay. So let us take a last question. If a non-listed company falls under compliance for Ind AS due to takeover by a listed company in the middle of the year, and what would be the presentation of financials at the year end?
If a non-listed company is taken over by the company, then on and from the date, that means for the financial year ending 1920, for example, the company has been taken over in December 2019. So when it presents the financial statements of 2019-20, it has to prepare as per the Ind AS for both the purposes, for the purposes of the consolidation of the earlier one, the parent one, and for its own purpose also.
Okay. So Chintan, I think now there are no more questions.
Yes, I think great. Yagnesh, questions, many questions are there, and we expect to have many questions. So again, I request participants to please be attentive like this, and let's continue this spirit also in the future. For every sessions, let's have this kind of question as a session, because Ind AS can be learned only with the interaction. However, with this technology, there are some limitations of interactions, but at least through question answer, we can ensure faculty also understand that there are participants who are listening to, who are really sincere to his session. So please ask questions wherever you feel required. And Yagnesh, it was fantastic, wonderful, as always you are. And I request Jaikin to give word of thanks, formal word of thanks.
And one more thing,
Sure.
Chintan bhai, you have my email ID and all this. I'm going to share this PPTs by tonight or tomorrow early morning. But in case any participant wants to ask any question, आपके माध्यम से मुझे पूछ सकते हैं, and definitely I'll answer them questions, right?
Sure, sir. So on behalf of Ahmedabad branch of WIRC of ICAI, I would like to present thanks. जो प्रेजेंट किया है, अंदाज में प्रेजेंट किया है, वो वाकई काबिल तारीफ। जिस तरह से सबको मजा आया, जो क्वेश्चंस आए सबको बाद में पता है कि नहीं, सब कोई सो नहीं गया था और कोई चाय पीने भी नहीं गया था, सब वहीं पे बैठे थे और इतना अच्छी तरह से एंजॉय कर रहे थे और आपका सुन रहे थे. It was really fantastic, and the way of presentation is really mind blowing. So thank you very much, sir, for presenting in such a manner. Yeah.
My pleasure,
Yes,
sir.
so
सिर्फ एक ही
yes,
बात है,
Agnesh,
जैसे
please.
चिंतन भाई ने कहा कि टेक्नोलॉजी की लिमिटेशंस की वजह से हम चैट भी इंटरेक्ट नहीं कर सकते, तो थोड़ा थोड़ी एक है लिमिटेशन, बट अगर इफ यू कैन टाइड ओवर दिस प्रॉब्लम, इट वुड हैव बीन फैंटास्टिक, यू नो. बट चिंतन भाई, अपने जैकिन भाई हैज गिवन अ गुड सपोर्ट, ओके, एंड मजा आएगी सर. थैंक यू सो मच बापू.
And thank you so much. Now, only
you,
last request to all my participants on Wednesday, second day of session. Basically, again, if you have any suggestions, any query regarding this particular refresher course, please be in touch with me. Share me your suggestions in case something can be done better. We are always there to ensure that you get best of things. So please be in touch with me. And on Wednesday, we have a topic and faculty as per schedule given to you. So thank you, Yagnesh bhai. Once you share a presentation material, I will upload on Google Drive and will share a link once WhatsApp group of all the participants are being done.
Okay, Chintan bhai, I mean, I'm sure you must have the feedback form and from the participants. So any improvement they need in my session or anything, please do share. Ask them to feel free to share with you.
Sure, definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much for sparing your time. Okay. Yeah. Bye.
It's always a pleasure, but with Chintan bhai and Parag bhai, it gets compounded.
Always. Yeah. Thank you. Bye.